Hey everybody, this is your Sister Cherry Love, coming to you again live on Google Hangout. I have both of my dear brothers, Brother G-Con and Brother Surreal, on back on the panel with a special guest from GMS. That is Great Millstone, and of course he's from Long Island. Tonight they're going to have a discussion, somewhat of open mic, from continuation of last night. Sorry about the audio being so terrible last night because it was done from my phone and we couldn't, get things fully figured out. But tonight we got everybody on the panel, special, for you guys. So anyway, without further ado, I'm not going to hold it up. Tonight, the brothers are going to talk about various different topics. I know one of them is definitely going to be reincarnation. I'm sure they're going to jump into salvation, grace. I know they're going to jump into it all. And I know the dear brothers are going to have an even flow. And I know this is going to be a wonderful discussion and very informational. So without further ado, I'm going to let each brother get 2 minutes to introduce themselves once again. And then they can just jump straight into the discussion. Let's start with dear brother stock trader, I believe GMS.
My name is GMS Long Island. Critically acclaimed polymath, author of 2 books. If you want to check out my work, you can go to lulu.com, the book website, and type in Rabbi Lewis, RABBILEWIS. And you can read my new ebook entitled Where Do White People Come From? You can also check out my YouTube channel, Great Millstone Long Island, on YouTube.
All right, and my name is So Real, or Matt Sully, aka So Real. I am part of the Sheild squad. I'm just a Christian, of course. I'm more of a counselor, evangelist kind of thing, but I also, do, I guess, apologetic work. And I basically defend the Christian faith. And that's pretty much all I'll say for right now.
Brother G-Con?
What's going on? What's going on? Peace to the family out there. As y'all know, they call me G Consciousness. You can check my Facebook page out up under LaRon Campbell, and also check out my YouTube page just as well. G Consciousness. Consciousness is spelled with a K, and I'm a Christian apologist, and also I deal with historical things, whether if it's biblically, a lot of theology, as well as studying science just as well.
All right. Okay, so wonderful. So then now we're going to start on the #1 topic, because leaving off from last night, G-Con, I know you can just jump straight head in, but I'm going to let the dear brother GMS, if you don't mind me calling him that, go ahead and read your scripture, a 2-minute introduction of whatever your fourth reincarnation, whatever the case may be, plead your case, and then the brothers will definitely rebuttal, and I know that's going to get the conversation flowing. So go right ahead and start. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, last night we talked about the book of St. John, chapter 9, verse 1. Let me get it real quick. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and it says, verse 1, Yahweh Shai, who was Jesus, in Paleo-Hebrew, passed by. He saw a man which was blind from his birth. So this man that Yahweh Shai was talking to was blind from birth. Verse 2, and his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? So here it says that the disciples asked Yahweh Shai, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Now, if he was born blind, when did he get a chance to sin, to make himself blind? In the Middle Eastern culture, it was common amongst the people the thought that if you were born blind or with an ailment, your ancestors sinned. But here it says not only does it ask the question, did his ancestors sin or did he sin? So it's clear they understood reincarnation to ask him that question because he couldn't have sinned in his lifetime if he was born that way. So they understood reincarnation, obviously. And in Judaism, it's called tikkun or gilgul. I'm sorry, Gilgul. You can Google that word. It's the Hebraic concept of reincarnation, which we teach at GMS. Now you got guys like Keith Thompson who would say that our teachers got it from the Hindus, but obviously he doesn't study and he doesn't know that the Jews also in Judaism teach the same thing. That's all.
Okay, can I be heard?
Yes, dear brother, you can.
I like to walk through this passage with him, but before I do that, I wanted everyone to be aware that even though he says that Judaism teaches this, the problem is that when you put what he says up against basic history, his whole theory about this falls apart. Because everyone right now can open up their Old Testament and literally see that the Jews were still a little pagan when they came out of Egypt. Everybody knows when you do your basic history that they stopped being idolatrous after the Babylonian captivity. It seemed that after so much, they finally let that stuff go. Now, of course, they went into other captivities, but that was one thing that they let go. When it comes to this whole reincarnation thing, you don't find that in scriptures the way that you think that it is in the New Testament. For example, when you have John the Baptist, when they say that he comes in the name of Elijah, right? But nevertheless, he actually says that he's not Elijah. And people don't like to look at those basic truths. Also, you can look in First and Second Kings, and you can see how pagan, once again, that the Old Testament Jews were. You can look in, I think it was Exodus. You can still see how pagan they were. You can look in the book of Judges, and you can still see how they, sought the high places where the pagans would worship their gods. So for him to say that, they taught this, well, where are we going to place that teaching? In the teachings where, that they still had all this kind of heretical stuff, like, Asherah poles and all kind of things like that in the Old Testament? Or are we going to place it into, Orthodox Judaism in the Old and New Testament, where they actually believe this to be a sound, truthful doctrine? No, you would never place it there. It goes totally against what they've always believed. But just because you can find somewhere in history where Jews pretty much were grasping on that belief doesn't mean that that was their mainstream belief. It just means that they still held on to pagan beliefs sometimes, but never as a whole Israelite society. That's the difference when he looks at these passages, and that's the reason why no one's ever really interpreted them that way.
Okay, brother G-Con.
Yeah, I think that we know that according to Josephus and other peoples, and the Jews picked up some type of silly reincarnation doctrine, and Christ really had to check them and really let them know what really was taking place. You know what I'm saying? And so that's simple. He basically checked them and let them know. We know is that genetically, um, we can see why people become blind and different things because we know that these are I can't read right now because I'm driving, but he actually says that this guy didn't sin. This was done that the work of God may be done on him. You know what I'm saying? So Christ realized that there's a work that he has to reverse due to the fact of what Adam did and Adam's sin, which caused the very genetics and genes overall of humans, and also those things that are associated with him, within this natural world, to be up under judgment and curses and plagues and different things. So that's something that Christ has come to basically correct those things and get those things right. And so that's the whole thing right there. I mean, we could find plenty of false practices in the Bible that they believed in, that they thought was something, because this is what they got from the elders, or when they went off into these foreign lands. But clearly, what I'm saying, there's once appointed man to die and then the judgment. You know what I'm saying? So, I ain't no you finna come back in another body or nothing like that. You done booking, or so that's how I see it.
Okay, dear brother, did you want to go and respond, brother GMS?
Yeah. I guess the popular response to John chapter 9 will be to dismiss the passage altogether as a result of paganism creeping into the Hebraic thought. John chapter 9, that they understood reincarnation. That's clear. Now, that's all on this particular topic. I don't know what other topic the brothers want to discuss. But John chapter 9 is clear. It's talking about reincarnation. It's clear. Because he couldn't have sinned.
Hold on just a second. I like to challenge you on that, because
Okay.
what you're not doing is you're totally ignoring the fact that we are pointing out that no one pushed this as a doctrine. That is a problem. And you write it off as, well, this is just a mainstream, blah, 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 blah. Well, you call it whatever you want. But the bottom line is that no one, even Jesus said, this man did not sin. So is Jesus wrong? That's my question to you.
No, what he was trying to articulate was that he wasn't blind because of what he did in the past life, but so that Yahweh Shai's work could be manifested, his glory, for his glory. But it was a theological option.
But no, I don't see any option there. I don't see any option there if Jesus said that he did not sin. So he obviously did not sin, or is
Right.
Jesus...
And what Christ was basically telling them is, you got the wrong idea. You know what I'm saying? What you think is this is not that. And during those times, we had the Sadducees, we had the Pharisees, and any other seed is out there. Seeds is out there. We had them, and so they was just teaching false doctrine. And there's many things. That's why they were scattered in 70 A.D. because they went to the Near East. They went to Elam. They went to Elam, so it clear that they would have.
It says Isaiah chapter 2 verse 6. It tells you that we had taken on Eastern practices. It does say that in Isaiah 2 and 6. But Yahweh Shai never rebuked them.
What does it
Yahweh
say?
Shai never rebuked them when it came to the did he sin or not. Yahweh Shai did not rebuke them. So, obviously he understood.
Hold on. Repeat that again. My phone went in and out. I didn't hear you say.
Yeah, I said Yahweh Shai didn't rebuke the disciples when they asked him that question. He didn't rebuke them. So obviously he understood reincarnation as well.
Right. He definitely understood it because he definitely understood it. Let me respond. He definitely understood it because we see that he understood a lot of esoteric and Hinduism, because he was speaking on a lot of that stuff, and these are the very traditions that he was actually coming against, that the elders had picked up when they was in Babylon, when they was in Elam. They picked up a lot of these practices, and from where your very Talmud and different Mishnahs and Midrashs stem from, with this Jewish type of Kabbalist type of thought, which they picked up at that time, and then later on, picking up some more stuff with dealing with the heathen nation. So, I mean, he definitely knew about it, but he was just giving them. He knew already that the people had been persuaded by those people that were elders, and so he was reteaching them people. He was coming. That's why it says he came to save them that was lost, the lost house of Israel, because they was lost in doctrine. Not that they was lost or you couldn't find them and we had to go search for them. No, they was lost in doctrine. So that's what he came to deal with them about.
Okay, I agree. I do agree with that.
In that case, can I read Isaiah 2:6, because you said that Isaiah 2:6 teaches reincarnation. Am I right?
No, I said Isaiah 2:6 says that we had taken on. Read it in the New International Version. That the Israelites had taken on Eastern customs. If you read Isaiah 2:6, read that real quick. Isaiah 2:6.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Unfortunately, my computer is really acting slow again. I apologize. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, read it in the NIV if you have it. Because it's
I like the ESV.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay.
Hold on. I don't know why it's acting so slow. Man, what is up tonight?
You said Isaiah 2:6?
Yeah, in the New International Version.
Okay, well, if you don't mind, well, I have the KJV, so I hope you don't mind that.
Yeah, because it doesn't it's written in the Old English, so it's a little confusing. So people might get confused with what it's trying to say.
Okay, it's coming up now. So, loading. Tag eSword. Technology is not on my side tonight. Hey, Mama Cherry, if you got it, you can read it.
You said what now?
If you got it, you can read it.
Okay, it's now this is KJV, so I hope that's not an issue. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 6. It reads, "Therefore thou hast forsaken thy people for the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistine, and they please themselves in the children of strangers."
Yeah, I read it in the New International Version. It says, you Lord, have abandoned your people, the descendants of Jacob. They are full of superstitions from the east. They practice divination like the Philistines and embrace pagan customs.
Right. So let's get this straight. Do you believe that the Jews, you believe that the Jews believed in reincarnation, and that it was to the point where it was a orthodox belief, just as traditional as them believing the one God? Am I correct?
Well, if you study, we weren't monotheistic or polytheistic. We were henotheistic. So
I understand that those deeper things. I'm asking you, do you believe that the doctrine of reincarnation was put on the same par as them believing in God, how they believe in God?
If I'm not mistaken, it was either the Sadducees or the Pharisees. They didn't even believe in the afterlife. It was either the Pharisees or the Sadducees. You probably know.
Yeah, the Sadducees did not believe in the afterlife at all, so they definitely believe in any reincarnation. But I'm asking you, do you believe that the average Jew simply believed as a doctrine about the reincarnation as traditional as they believed in the Old Testament Septuagint?
Well, the Hijjah, the Shilonite, he had a vision. Well, he took. I don't remember how it's worded. The kingdom got split, the northern and southern kingdom, which was the 12 tribes of Israel. Because you have to. The first king of Israel was King Saul. After that, it was King David. who was from the tribe of Judah, and he had a son named Solomon. And the kingly order is established through David and Solomon. You have to be a descendant of Solomon to sit on the throne of David, or to sit on the throne. Now, the Shilite priest Ahijah was the one who prophesied the split of the northern and southern kingdom, that they will be split up. I'm sorry, I lost
did
my.
not ask about that.
Wait, what was your question? I'm sorry. What was your question again?
My question was, do you believe that the Jews and now I'm going to bring it to the New Testament, during the times of Jesus, they're under the Romans, right? They're practicing their religion. Do you believe that reincarnation was just as much as believable, on par to the level that they held to the Old Testament Septuagint? Or was it some lower level superstitious belief here and there? It all depends on what Jew you talk to.
Yeah, I guess it's debatable. It's very debatable topic,
Okay.
But I was
Okay.
my
So
point. My position was just that. Sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry. My position was just that in John chapter 9, they understood reincarnation. But you
okay.
got a lot of
Well,
people who've never heard
in
it.
that okay. Well, in that context of what they understood reincarnation, you had put it in the context of it's debatable. It's
Right.
we don't know if it's an official doctrine to the point where we can go ahead and write books on it and push it on Hangouts and teach it in our churches. You're saying it's not
Right, because no
that
churches,
believable.
no Orthodox churches, Baptist, Protestant, none of them teach reincarnation.
No, no, I'm talking
Or they all teach.
no, I'm talking about the first century Jews.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now that we have that in perspective, my question to you is, if this was a minority view and it was never like something where it became official, just as official as the Septuagint, just as official as the Exodus, just as official as their Sabbath practices and feast days, if it's not on that level, my question to you is, why are you teaching it as if it's on that level? If you yourself says that it's just a spurious optional doctrine.
Well, I mean, it's what our elders taught us from GMS. Like, I'm GMS, so our elders, taught us reincarnation. You know what I mean? So we teach reincarnation.
Right. Well, actually where it comes from, when you start dealing with, as you stated, the ancient Near East, right? When you start dealing with like the Queen of Heaven and stuff like that, and you start dealing with Nimrod and them, um, the Queen of Heaven was looked at as to be what is her name? Eve. She was looked to be Eve reincarnated, because they didn't want their family members to die, and so when their family members did die, what I'm saying, Eve then begin to looked at, and Adam began to be looked at as being worshipped by the people. The only way they can make those people live on, or that type of religion to live on, that came forth after them, was to say that these people are reincarnated. So this is Mary. I mean, this is Eve. You know, this is Adam. And so that's what they did. So we got to be real careful with that, because what they was doing in the ancient times is making people believe that this was this person reincarnated, and because this person was the mother and father of all civilizations, you need to obey me, because I'm reincarnated this uh through this supposed Queen of Heaven that's on earth right now. So the Queen of Heaven was really Eve, because she passed on and she went to the heavens, and so they continued that type of thought process. And so a lot of the ancient Near East stuff is where they get the reincarnated from. So if you study that, you can also look at that at David Rowe, who was an Egyptologist and also did with Sumer, a lot of Sumertologists just as well, and he did with a lot of historical and ancient studies. You can check out that in his book, The Genesis of Civilization.
And also, just to add to that, I'm looking at a very powerful, trustworthy commentary that I trust, and it is the Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges. And it says this in the commentary: one having been dropped in copying because of their resemblance. Quote, the East would include Arabia, Syria, and Mesopotamia, perhaps also Babylonia. Quote, the classic of land magic. You know, and also there's another about Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown, and it says the same thing. It says that, namely, with superstitions of the East, Syria and Chaldea. So far, I don't see anything that says anything about, you know, the Far East and India and the Hindus. It seems that when they say the East, the Jews, they seem to have a different location of what that means historically. So I think that's another thing you might
Yeah,
want to
because
look at.
the Far East is way East Asia. When you start dealing with the Near East, you're dealing with like Elam and also Mesopotamia and those places. Because when we kind of look at the Uruk culture or the culture that came up out of modern day Iraq or Shinar or Eric, it'd be Eric in the Bible, but it's Uruk, the Uruk culture. We could kind of see that it spread to Elam, to the Near East, and also to the Middle East, or what we call the Middle East today, and also and all the way into the other world. So a lot, even the Egyptians, a lot of their style of religion or their theology is built off of ancient Near East theology. And they try to say it ain't. They try to say, well, this come right up out of Egypt, but that's just not the case. So the very concept of coming back as somebody else in another body, that's Near East, just all the way Near East. So I don't know, man. You might want to look into that a little bit more. I don't know why would they. I think that they would teach that just basically for some type of gain of people to say, oh, this is King David in the flesh. We gotta listen to everything he say.
Yeah, my,
I don't
my
know if you guys
question to
can.
you is,
All right.
my question to you is, if you as a teacher personally believe that this view that you were taught by your elders is a minority view in the New Testament, according to your statement, why do you as a teacher teach it if you believe that this was like a minority view, it was unofficial? Is it that your teachers that taught you are somehow superior to the people that you're reading about in the New Testament?
Right. Hello. Yeah. So like I said, it's debatable. The topic's debatable, but I was just making my premise was that John chapter 9, that the man couldn't have sinned in his lifetime, so they understood reincarnation. That's the only point I was making. A
I
lot of people
understand
don't.
your point, but I have a question. My question is, you believe something that perhaps the teachers that taught you don't believe, because you said that, yeah, you got this from your teachers and they taught you this. But yet you yourself, based on, your own confession and I'm sure your own studies, you just told us tonight on air, as a rabbi, quote unquote, you say that this is a minority view. It wasn't official, right? The New Testament that we're reading. So my question is that, are your teachers more right about this than the people in the New Testament?
Well, a lot of things don't add up about that particular time period in history, especially the whole King Herod thing, where these Edomites are sitting on the throne. See what I'm saying? Now you got some people who believe the book of Obadiah was fulfilled by John Hyrcanus and the Maccabees, but they were going off as well in the Apocrypha, because these were Levites who were set up as kings. If you read the book of Daniel, it says that they shall seek to establish the vision, but will fail. And if you look in history, this is talking about the Maccabees who got destroyed. These were actually Edomites pretending to be Levites who were trying to sit in the throne as kings.
But the problem is, I did not ask you about Herodians, Edomites, Levites, John Hyrcanus. I didn't ask you anything about that. I asked you, is your take on this, about this doctrine of reincarnation, Are you holding your teachers that taught you higher than the people in the New Testament that held this minority view?
Right. Well, I mean, ecclesiastically speaking, a lot of the teachings were all mixed up at this time in history. That's what I was trying to articulate. A lot of the teachings that were being taught in the land, like in the book of Romans, like people misinterpret um, things for forsaking the Torah. They think that we're not supposed to follow the Torah anymore. But a lot of those sayings that were in the book of Romans, I don't know exactly where it was in the Romans. It's not talking about the Torah. It's talking about Pharisaic, the Pharisees, the way that the oral laws that they were perpetuating at that time, which they were Edomites anyway. It's talking about.
I understand all of that. I understand that people had their different kinds of views, but that was not my focus. So I'm going to ask you again. Do you believe that the teachers that taught you this reincarnation doctrine are more viable, more believable, should be followed, that they're right about this more than the people in the New Testament that held to this minority view?
Well, yeah. If
Okay,
you look in the history, after Babylonian captivity, the Persians and the Medes defeated the Babylonians, if I'm correct. And King Cyrus, or was King Darius, made the decree because he had a dream that the Most High, the God of Israel, Yahweh, which is his name of Paleo-Hebrew, he had a vision about that. And he sent us back to the land, the Israelites back into the land after the Babylonian captivity to build the temple, which you would read in the book of Ezra.
Okay, once again, you're not answering my question at all. So I'm just going to make it even more simple for you before we move on.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, yeah.
Teachers, it's okay. Your teachers believe in reincarnation, and they taught it to you. The people in the New Testament believed in reincarnation, as you'd say. But when I asked you about, like, specifically what that meant, you and I and everyone else concluded that that was a spurious minority view. In other words, it all depended on who you talk to. It was never an official, universal Jewish belief.
Right.
Those people are being compared to your teachers.
So well, the Torah does flirt. The Torah flirts
to you.
The Torah flirts with the concept of reincarnation. And can you hear me? The Torah flirts with ideas of reincarnation in the book of Ecclesiastes.
What I am trying to ask you is, which one of those two views are right? Is it the minority view of the Jews, or is it your teachers? Like, which one do you say that is more correct?
Well, we believe what like our elders taught us, like Elder Ariel, King Mashar, who taught my elders, Elder Gabar, Elder Ramlab, Elder Tahar.
Okay, got it. So I just wanted to get it clear live on there that you believe things that your elders taught you, more than the fact that the people in the very book that you read held that as a minority view, and your teachers do not hold that as a minority view. They hold that as a doctrine, something that your New Testament, our New Testament, never did.
Well, like I said, the Old Testament, the Torah flirts with concepts of reincarnation. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it uses like that kind of language, like reincarnation like language. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, particularly in the book of Proverbs.
Right. Well, once again, we're going in circles because you just got done saying that this was a minority view.
No, I said it's debatable. It is debatable. Like, I don't know which church fathers you are talking about, whether it's Papias or Eusebius or.
No. I never brought up church fathers. I brought up the.
Oh, you brought up Cambridge, the encyclopedia. I don't know what source you're pulling from.
Yeah, that was not right. That was the commentary that I read to you just about the Old Testament and what that Isaiah 2:6 said. What I'm saying to you is that you're you're saying out of your own mouth that there were people in the New Testament, be they Essenes, Nazarenes, uh, Pharisees, Sadducees, regular Jews, zealots, whoever these people were, you're saying that reincarnation was a minority debated, spurious, unofficial view. It was not universal. It was
Well,
something.
here's the thing.
So not
Um,
you're that's what you're saying. I have to finish this. And the
yeah.
teachers that you said here, I have to finish this. And the teachers that you say that you follow anyway, after I gave you that choice, you went with your teachers. And so your teachers are pushing something as an actual doctrine that you just got done saying that the people in that book never pushed as an actual doctrine because it was spurious. It was unofficial. And to your teachers, it's official. It's a doctrine.
Well, the whole thing,
That's
my premise is,
against
do
the
you believe
Bible.
that Jesus had a father, a physical father? Because according to the history, the southern kingdom, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, weren't even in the land during the time of Yahweh Shai, Jesus Christ. So the question is, do you believe he had a physical father? Because according to Romans chapter 1 and 3, Revelation 22:16, Hebrews 7 and 14, he came from the tribe of Judah. But if you do the history, if you critically analyze the history, the southern kingdom wasn't even in the land. Predominantly Edomites who were in
Right,
the
right.
land during the time of Yahweh Shai.
Let me address some of that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
When you say Edomites, right? Predominantly the Edomites would have been in that land to the fact of because they Arabs. They come from
Exactly.
Arabia, and so they
Right.
flourish today in that land. We know that a lot of the Moab, the Midianites, the Ammonites. These are your Jordanians that's across to the east. And so you can look over there today and kind of see that these are the very people that would have flourished. And when you look at these Semitic cultures, when you came from Mesopotamia and came through to Egypt or came up into the north, you got to go through those places. And those people were not, they didn't play any games. They was looters, they was rioters. Some of them was good people. A lot of them was bad people because if you bring in shipments of stuff through that Arabia Peninsula, coming through the one of Israel, or coming on the other side of the Red Sea, you definitely had to make sure you pass them people up. So we know that they was there, but for the most part, when you look at it really doesn't matter if that's what those people taught. It could have been the majority of Israel that taught that. Christ had already established that the majority of those people had lost their way. They was lost. It was a lost people. That's why he says he came into the lost sheep of Israel. And so they was lost, not that where, we Christ didn't know where to go to find them because he was going to go find the people. He was going to the very
Yeah,
places
they were
where those people
Hellenized
was.
after Antiochus Epiphanes was the source of the
Right.
Hellenization of the Jews when he put the pig on the altar.
Right,
And they put the
right,
Daniel.
definitely, and I agree with that. So it's not my question to you is this because this is my first time talking to you, and you seem like a nice guy, and easy to talk to. You're not really like the other brothers I encountered, you know, and you seem like you really sincere with what you're dealing with, and that's why I'm coming to you with the spirit of humility. But let me ask you this question:
Right.
if you found out, that because I used to deal with the Hebrew Israelite thing too, and I found out that it's a possibility that I couldn't be an Israelite, and so when I found out that immediately, I was like, you know what, this is not what God was trying to really do for me. You know what I'm saying? Because
But you
I
feel like your
realized
dad
that
was white, or your patrilineage was white, or something like that.
uh you know uh uh yeah, because my grandpa, and then also when I started studying about genetics and other types of things and looking at things historically, last names, and where how those things carry from your slave master and the mixing in and all of those different things. And also when you start looking at anthropology, you can start seeing a lot of these brothers are saying that they Israelites, they features are more so like European. And then when we start doing genetic tests on them, we start seeing that they got these actually European genes that's in them. Like you got these brothers that's got R1B in them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We can clearly see that that is a West Europe gene, and so that's where our slave masters came from. So you can imagine and see why this person will have this R1B in them and where it originated from. And so what my thing is this is that once I realized that 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 wasn't what God was trying to do and what God was doing in the spirit, I kind of broke away from it. Now my question to you is, when you looking at this Bible and you see something that's truth in it, you have to be willing to look at that Bible and say, this is truth, even though I know that my teacher is not teaching this, that he doesn't see this, because I had to do that. It's even now today to where I can look at my pastor and look at certain people and even certain things. I can look at we have disagreements among Shield Squad, whether it's vocab, so real when it comes to Eastern Orthodox and different things like
Let me
that.
ask you
And
a question.
uh,
Yeah, do you agree that, because what we teach obviously is that the Negroes who came to the transatlantic slave trade are direct descendants of the Israelites from Palestine or Jerusalem, that we fled into West Africa after 70 AD. About 100,000 Israelites fled into West Africa and to Ghana. We got, of course, during the time of the transatlantic slave trade, the Portuguese and the Muslims were trading us all across the continent. They were calling West Africa Yehudi, which was Judah, and they were trading us all across the of course, the planet. But some of us went to India, some of us went to Morocco, different, Europe, and of course America. So we teach that the modern day Jews are a mix of Khazarian converts, and the Sephardic Jews will be the idea being, and Khazarian converts and Edomites. That the Khazarian kingdom was converted to Judaism by a black Jew named Hasdiah bin Sharput. He gave these white Khazarians Judaism. And the modern day Jews are those you see today that converted to Judaism from the Khazarian Empire in Khazaria under King
right,
Joseph.
right.
That was his name. Yeah. If you read Arthur Coase's book, The 13th Tribe.
Yeah, and that book, that book has been debunked by almost all
Well,
scholars.
let me
Like
say,
the only,
I've heard that. A lot of people say that, but if you read the Wikipedia article about the Khazarian and Ashkenazi theory, it was widely accepted before Arthur Kosa wrote that book. And later on in history, they tried to cover it up and said, "Oh, this was incorrect." But originally, it was accepted amongst Jewish scholars. And
right. That's the reason why Arthur actually came and he pushed the book, because he felt like that he can get something out of the book, because there was a guy before him that was speaking on those things. And but it's just not historically.
Rabbi Asher Meza, who came out and said that the Israelites weren't black on YouTube. He also did another video saying the Israelites weren't white. The original Jews were not white. And if you're white and you're a Jew, you are a convert. He came out and made the video. Now I reposted that video on my channel.
Right, but that's fine. But at the same time, these people are not. They're not looking at things historically. Like when you say where like what was the Khazarian kingdom at? Like, do you know where it's at? Where it's placed at, as far as the geography wise?
Yeah. Now the Khazarian correspondence, if you type it in on Wikipedia, it says that he said that he was a descendant of Japheth through Khazaria.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Listen, we understand that, but I'm asking you, do you know where the geography is at of Khazaria?
It's in Europe. I can't remember exactly.
It's in where?
It's in Europe.
It's in where? It's not in Europe. It's in Asia.
Excuse me. Or Asia's Leo Scipios Asiaticus. Yeah, Leo Scipios Africanus had his son, Leo Scipios Asiaticus, where I know some people disagree that they named Asia after this guy, Leo Scipios Asiaticus. I don't know if you agree with that.
Right, but it's not. The point is, it's in Asia.
No problem.
So when you look at it, right where it says it's placed right between, almost like up there where the Black Sea at. These are areas where you had the city. Right, you had the Caspian Sea and all of that. These are areas where you had the Scythian Empire, and also the Parthenian Empire, and also when you look at how the Assyrian Empire was right below that, So
Right.
these are the very places that Israel was there, living in those places in Khazar before 700 AD. They've been in these places since the Assyrian scattering was scattered. And when after, I mean, since the Assyrians scattered Israel, and then afterwards the Babylonian captivity. So there were many of people that were scattered to those areas that's
Of
been
course,
there
you had
before there was even a Khazarian.
Sargon II pushed the Naphtalites into what was that called? Nineveh, where you had the Ninevite. What was his name? Tobit. Was it
Right,
Tobit? Yeah, he
right.
was in Nineveh. He was a descendant of the Naphtalites that
So
got
it's
pushed to Nineveh.
right, and so when you look at it, these people are, when you look at the Scythian and the Parthenian Empire, Israel was up under that empire. They was in those areas. So when you look into
But no, but my point, my position is that this guy, King Joseph, said he was a Japhet. He was Japhetic. He said he was Japhetic, so he wasn't an Israelite. Now
he wasn't an Israelite.
his name is Jewish. So you got some people that postulate that he was an Edomite because of his Jewish name. His name was Jewish. You see what I'm saying?
Who
So some people
was?
like that. King Joseph, the king of Khazaria, that got Judaism from the black Jew, Hazia bin Sharput.
Right,
He
but
said he was
hold on. Wait, hold on. What period was this?
Let's get that. Hold on, let me Google it. If you just Google the
Right,
Khassanian,
because look, you giving me 700 AD. I'm giving you 800 BC of
right,
Israelites being already in those areas. And so when Christ came in those areas, when you look at the very scriptures and Acts chapter 2 before 70 AD, it tells you, it says, how hearest thou we these other Jews or these Israelites that come from these other areas, the Parthenians, those that the Elamites and all of these
right,
Jews were scattered in these provinces. And so you giving me 700 AD
right.
conversion in 70 AD. I'm giving you something 800 BC in the
Wait,
Assyrian
what's your
Empire,
point?
showing you the Israelites
What
been in
point are you
those
making?
areas already.
Nah, I don't disagree. What's your point? Because
My point.
just like the
This
scripture
is
said,
my right. But this is my point. My point to this is, it's impossible to say that a black Jew came to Khazaria and converted them when Israelites was already there. What took place actually is that you had people that was already there, whether if they were Jews, whether if they was Christians or Arabics, because it was, you was dealing with the Turkish people that was making those people. These are Turkish people. They was making those people convert. So the people at Khazaria, some of them was already
you
Jews
gotta remember
already. They was
Turkey was the capital of, it was either Eastern or the Western Roman Empire, which was they moved to Turkey. I'm sorry.
right,
Go ahead.
that's just, I mean, that's another argument. But I mean, I understand that, but I mean, it's not what I'm showing you is this is my
This was around
point.
the time of the Moors. This was around the time of the Moors. Since Diab Ben Shar put after the Moors, which were black Israelites, Hamites, and different
Okay,
Semitic tribes.
right. But see, what you're
They
doing is
conquered.
you're not realizing.
They conquered Europe in
Right,
711. Okay,
right. But brother,
and you had
listen. Can y'all hear me? Because this brother just steady just talking over me.
yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
can
what
hear
I'm
you.
telling you is right. This what I'm telling you, brother. Your Khazarian theory scholarly will get demolished. It holds no weight, bruh, because in 70 AD you got Christ talking about. I mean, before 70 AD you got Christ talking about synagogues, and also Paul talking about synagogues all through Asia. So they was in those very areas where the Scythians and the Parthenians was at, which is where the Khazarian Empire was. So what I'm showing you is this is in 70 AD. Them people was it was already Jews there. But my point is this: why did they make them convert? Why did the Khazarian Empire convert? And it was dealing with because of Christianity and also the
This,
war with the Arabics, and they was pushing them Islam. They was pushing them to the east, and they had to they better convert it to Judaism, because if not, it would have been some problems. But when you say that they went to you say that they went to Ashkenazi. Those Jews was already in Ashkenazis before any Khazarian came over there. How do we know that? Because they were spread through the Roman provinces about 60 something BC.
and then they was already being traded by the Greeks doing around about 500 to 600 BC. When we start looking at the book of Joel, well, actually before 500 BC, because the book of Joel is dated to around like 700 BC during that time. So all I'm saying is this, brother, is somebody got an echo. All I'm saying is this, brother, is it you need to you're gonna have to
Yeah,
deal
you're
with
gonna
that
have to mute
history a
your
little bit
mic.
more better. Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with that history a little bit more better, man. That Khazarian book, man, even the Khazarian theory, it holds no weight. That's just like me saying that the Black America, right?
G-Con, you still there? Uh-oh. He dropped out. Cyril, you still there?
Yeah, he'll be back.
Yeah.
For now, until he gets back. Now that we're on this subject, my question to you is: does the Old Testament teach, New Testament, Old Testament, does the Bible itself teach that the Israelites are a race, or are they something else?
I mean, I think the Bible is very clear. The biblical motif is very clear that this is their actual physical race. I mean, that question, no offense, is so obtuse and so unstudied that I don't even know how to respond to that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and explore.
Well, you know what? I can't assume that people know things because, I've been studying the Bible for so long, so I can't assume that people just know scriptures. They just know things. But, I don't know if you guys everyone's familiar with the Hebrew Israelite doctrine. If you are, you know the scriptures that we use to prove that they were a physical people. But I can't assume everybody knows this, knows the Hebrew Israelite doctrine. So I won't assume that. So excuse me. How about on a friend?
Right. So my question is that, no one, if like I'm an African, right?
Right.
Can I become an Asian, or do I have to be born an Asian?
There was a Malcolm X quote I was thinking about. I can't remember how he articulated it. But anyway, what was your question? I'm sorry. Say your question again.
It's okay. I'll repeat my question. I'm an African.
Okay, you're from Africa.
You want to call it?
What part of Africa are you from?
Well, that doesn't matter. I'd like to ask my question.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is, can I actually become an Asian? Can I change my genetics and all that stuff? Can I become an Asian, yes or no?
No.
Okay, right? Because obviously, that's a race, right? Okay,
Right.
so my question is that can anyone become a Jew or an Israelite?
Oh, that's an excellent point you just made. Obviously not. It's a physical race of people. Now, Judaism will try to teach that you can convert and become a Jew, but that's incorrect. Let's go to
Okay, so what you're saying is that what makes you a Jew, Israelite, Hebrew, fill in the blank, whatever, what makes you an Israelite is birth.
Yes, Numbers chapter 1 and 18 and Numbers chapter 2 and 2. If your father is an Israelite, you're an Israelite. Your mother could be any race. If your father's not an Israelite, your mom's an Israelite, you're not an Israelite. So it goes to the father's line. That's Numbers 2 and 2, Numbers 1 and 18. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6 real quick. Read that real quick if you got time. Because I don't want to assume people know these basic scriptures. These are just basic scriptures that you learn when you first come in. Yeah.
Right, I understand that, but we don't need to go to Deuteronomy 7, verse 6, because it has absolutely nothing to do with the focus of our topic.
Of course it does. Of course it does. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and 6 real quick. Read that real quick. Maybe Sister Cherry want to read it, King James, or if you want to read it.
Hold on, you said, wait a minute, you said Acts chapter 7 and 6?
Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6.
Once again, let's go to somewhere else that actually has to do with the topic.
That does have to do with the topic. You got to start there. Because I'm going to build a case, okay? But you got to start somewhere.
a birth, you can be born an Israelite. Can you show me?
You can be born an Israelite.
Yes. Can you show me in scripture where that's demonstrated?
Well, we got to go back to Genesis chapter 25.
Okay.
Now, Israel, the progenitor of Israel was Abraham, Isaac, and Abraham was the Most High's friend. He made a covenant with Abraham, which was from Ur of Chaldea. He had a son named Isaac, and then Isaac had a son named Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Now there were two nations in Genesis 25, where Esau, Jacob's brother, they were in the womb together, and it's this literary element in the Old Testament. They were fighting in the womb. Anyway, if you read the story in Genesis 25, Esau, Jacob's brother, sold his birthright for some lentil stew.
Okay, so
just a little background. I don't know if people know that story. Go to just Genesis chapter 25. So Jacob had 12 sons, which became the 12 tribes of Israel you see today. So these are actual tribes of people. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Zebulun, Issachar. These are actual tribes that descended from a man named Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So there's your answer. Are these an actual group of people? There actually were 12 different tribes who were descendants of this guy, Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, who was a descendant of Abraham and Isaac.
Okay, let's go ahead and look at that, because unfortunately my phone's on 7% and it's still charging, but it's going down, and I'm trying my best to keep it up.
Yeah, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6.
Yeah, so hold on, what'd you say?
Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6. Get that first. We'll start at Deuteronomy 7 and 6.
Well, once again, Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6 has absolutely nothing to do with what makes you an actual Israelite.
Of course it does. I'm going to build a case. Go to Deuteronomy 7 and 6. Start at verse 6.
But before you even build a case, I'd like to go ahead and look at Genesis 25. So,
okay, start wherever you want to start. It's a long story, but I can't assume people know that story. So yeah.
Well, I understand that, but I know that whoever is listening, I'm pretty sure that eventually they'll go ahead and do their homework and things like that.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. You can start at 24.
Yeah, like I was saying. So what you're saying is that because you have the 12 tribes being birthed from Jacob, you're saying that demonstrates that it's an actual race because they're being born. My question is, what happened to each of those 12 children on the 8th day?
What you mean, the circumcision and the different you had if it was a girl you had to sacrifice a turtle dove. I might be misquoting the Torah. There was rights. There was birthrights.
12 tribes right now. We're just talking about those 12 brothers that were born. What happened to them on the 8th day?
Oh, we mean circumcision? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, so they were circumcised, right?
Right.
Well, now you just said that, birth makes you an Israelite, and now all of a sudden you also agree that they were circumcised on the 8th day. I'd like to go to Genesis 17. Now, there are 10 scriptures that I could go through. I don't know if we're going to get through them all, but I'd like to start with the very first one. Basically, God had made a covenant with Abraham, and he wanted to start a people. When he made this covenant, he basically said in verse 11, he said, "This is my covenant," right? He said, "Look, this is going to be my covenant, all right? Between me and you and your offspring after you throughout your generations. This is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and your offspring after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male throughout your generations, whether he be born."
So, didn't your Paul, the New Testament, teach against circumcision?
Well, we're not going to get into that right now.
Okay, go ahead.
That's a whole different subject. We're not going to get into that right now. So I'd like to continue.
Yeah, go
ahead. It says that every male among you, your generations, among you will be circumcised, whether he be born in your house
or bought with stranger of any foreigner who is not of your seed. He's both he who is born in your house and he who is bought with any stranger of a money. In other words, if you had a servant that you bought as a servant and he is
Right.
not your seed, he's a stranger, he's a Gentile, he's a sojourner,
Right.
they shall surely be circumcised.
That's right. Right.
Be in the flesh of your foreskin for everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin shall be cut off from his people because he has broken my covenant. So that means that God started a people, a covenant, a people with Abraham through a covenant. And he said, if you want to be my people, you have to be circumcised on the 8th day that you're born. Whether they are of your physical seed or whether they are not of your physical seed and you buy a stranger for money, they got to be circumcised too. And that way, they will be my people.
Right.
Whoever is among you and they're not circumcised, they're going to be cut off from being my people. They're not going.
Okay, let's go to Leviticus chapter 25, verse 44. Start at verse 44.
Before we do that, Before we do that, I'd like to hear your take on Genesis chapter 17, because what I see here is this is what makes you an Israelite.
Okay.
So if this is what makes you an Israelite, this means that the Israelites were never a race, but it's races of people under a covenant faith.
Right. Well, I'm going to show you that that's incorrect. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 15 first. Then we're going to go to Leviticus 25, 44 for the audience to get the information. Go to Deuteronomy 17 and 15. I'm going to show you that how Israel was being distinguished from the other nations as a physical people, not just converts.
So you have nothing to say to Genesis 17 before you continue.
The scripture. I'm going to give you a scripture that answers your question. Yeah, first go to Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 15. Then we're going to go to Leviticus 25, 44.
Okay. Deuteronomy 17, 15 says...
Did you want me to read it? Oh.
You can read it, sister, in the King James.
Okay, you said Deuteronomy 17, 15?
Yeah, I think I got the 17. Then we go to Leviticus 25, 44.
Yeah, and Deuteronomy 17, 15 reads, "Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose, one from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother."
Right. So this is a physical. The Israelites can't sit a king over them that is not from the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The scriptures is clear on that in Deuteronomy 17 and 15. So they're distinguishing themselves as a bloodline of people. So let's go to Leviticus 25, 44 to back us up.
Leviticus, I'd like to go ahead and respond to Deuteronomy 17, 15. The first thing I'd like to say is that I see nowhere in this passage where it talks about physical lineage or bloodline, especially bloodline, mainly because that came with Darwinism in the 1700s. No one really kind of the Israelites and all that never looked at race or lineage like that. Now, the second thing I see is you may not put a foreigner over you who is not your brother. Now, when we look at Genesis 17, and we don't leave that out, we also see that
Jethro, you're going to talk to me about Jethro, right?
Nope, I'm not going to talk to you about Jethro because I said Genesis. Jethro is in Exodus.
Okay, go ahead.
In Deuteronomy 17, it literally said, you know what, people...
This is after Sinai. This is not before Sinai. Genesis was before Sinai. So there were different laws.
Genesis
one at a time. Let them finish, Brother GMS.
Okay.
Yeah, Genesis was before Sinai. Now, like I was saying before, in Genesis 17, you had a foreigner who was not of his seed, who was circumcised. You can read that in the end of Genesis 17. Where
I just told you that was before Sinai.
Hear me out. Where Abraham circumcised people who were not of his seed, Ishmael and Isaac and he just circumcised everybody. The moment that they did that, that means that they were God's people. They were his people, right? They were not going to be cut off. Nope, they were his people now. So that means here that this foreigner, the only reason that he is not to be a king is not because of some physical blood lineage. No, it is because that he was not converted into being a Jew. If he was converted by circumcision, you'd be considered a Jew, Israelite, Hebrew, whatever you want to call it. He is part of the covenant people. He has entered the covenant, just like in Exodus 12, when the strangers wanted to go ahead and partake of the Passover. And what did God tell them in Exodus 12? He said, if those males circumcise themselves, then they could come near and take the Passover. So once again, if you enter the covenant, if you become a Jew, then you could go ahead and do that. If these guys over here in Deuteronomy 17, if they would have circumcised themselves and did the same thing, then they would have been able to be eligible to go ahead and become king, because they would have been their brothers now that they've entered the covenant. So I don't see this what you're seeing in Genesis or in Deuteronomy 17.
See, you're not reading. You have to come from the line of David and Solomon to sit on the throne of Israel. That's why Yahweh Shai is our king. He came from the lineage of David and Solomon. He was direct. Now, some people quote the curse of Jeconiah, but we'll talk about that later. Luke chapter 1 verse 33, Matthew chapter 1 verse 21.
And hold on, one at a time. Slow down.
Acts chapter 5 verse 30. Those are particular scriptures that show that Yahweh Shai is the king of Israel. But he had to come from a physical bloodline to sit on the throne. No Gentile's going to sit on the throne over Israel in the kingdom. Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in World War III and the building of the third temple?
I wanted to point out something here real quick. There were converts throughout David's bloodline, period. I don't care if they're men or women. So once again, you're talking about this bloodline thing, but that's what you have. So that means, according to Deuteronomy 17, these people could have been eligible if they'd have been circumcised. Especially
okay. Let's go to Second Ezra chapter 6. Start at verse 55.
You said Second Esdras
in the Apocrypha, chapter 6, start at verse 55.
Okay. So
that's on y'all. I don't fool with the Apocrypha.
Yeah, I'm throwing haymakers now. I'm going right to the point. We're gonna knock this out right away. This incorrect teaching right away.
Esdras chapter 6 verse 5.
Verse 54.
Start at verse 54. Okay. It says, who is ringing my doorbell? Will you all excuse me for a moment?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We're just taking a brief second intermission real quick while Surreal handles whatever he handles. I'm going to take this moment to let you guys know. First of all, thank you for tuning in. For the people who are tuning in to my channel, y'all know recently I just started this channel, so I thank y'all for y'all support. Also, please don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to Surreal's channel, my brother G-Con's channel, as well as Sal Showtime's channel from Debate Talk for You. Hey, brother Sal, as well as brother Vocab, brother Veckel. Who else is there? Sister Raquel doesn't have her channel yet, but she'll be getting it up soon. I wanted to say, hey, Sister Raquel, love you, as well as the rest of my brothers on the Shield Squad and sister as well. So please support us as well, the Shield Squad, and also support SOG. You have on SOG, Faithful to God, Brother J Producer, I believe Marcus Webb, let me see, Beckel, and more. So by all means, please support them as well. Let's not forget Brother Scott Lane, of course. Shout out to him from the Shield Squad. Love you, dear brother. So I just want to tell everybody I'm very grateful to have this platform right here. And Brother Cyril is back. You guys can go ahead and continue. All right.
Second Ezra chapter 6, start on verse 55.
All right, it says this. All things have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes.
It's about the Israelites. He made the world for the Israelites' sake. Read on.
Okay. As for the other people, which also come from Adam,
Right.
thou hast said that they are nothing,
Read that
because
again.
they are nothing,
That's right. Read on.
but be like unto spittle, and hast likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel.
Read on.
It says, and now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. Want me to keep going?
Yeah, read that. Yeah, it says, but we thy people whom thou hast called thy firstborn, which is Israel, their only begotten and thy fervor lover are given into their hands. So clearly he calls the other people from Adam nothing. The other races, the other nations that come from Adam. Now, let's go to Leviticus chapter 25, verse 44. Because let me ask you a question. Do you believe in, let's talk about eschatology here. Do you believe in the third temple? And
Hold
that
on.
yeah,
Wait a
okay.
minute. Wait on. Before we go to another scripture, once again, can we look at this? Okay, so what now I'm going to tell you what I'm concluding from it, and you can tell me what I'm missing. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
What I see from here is that this verse looks like it's saying that when it comes to Israel being God's firstborn, when he compares Israel to the other nations, it seems that the other nations are nothing, even though they do come from Adam, just like we all do. He's saying that these nations are nothing; they're spittle, and also that these nations that are nothing have become has basically begun to rule over the
That's
firstborn,
right.
rule over them. Um,
Right, right.
Now, so far, what I've not seen is I've not seen how this proves that the Israelites are a race of people.
You don't see it? You still don't see it? Go to Leviticus chapter 25, verse 44. We're not going to go there. I don't even. Let's go to Amos chapter 3, verse 2.
Okay. All right. Amos chapter 3, verse 2 says, oh, and by the way, it's interesting that, that you kind of read this about, how God feels about other nations. Well, I guess God must really have mixed feelings, when we compare it to all of the old covenant, especially the new covenant. It seems like he really has his mind made up in John 3:16 and other places
Yes,
too.
yeah, we'll go to that. We'll go to John 3:16. Amos 3 and
Amos
2. Start at verse 1. Start at verse
3 and 1. All right, Amos 3 and 1 says, hear this word that the Lord hath here, let me do ESV. I can't. Okay. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O people of Israel, against
1.
the family that I brought up out of the land of Egypt. Only you have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore,
Uh-oh.
punish you for all your iniquities.
So here it says in Amos 3 and 2 that Yahweh, the God, only knew Israel out of all the families. He made it clear. It's talking about the physical bloodlines of people, families of the earth. He only knew Israel, which was a bloodline, which was a family that was on the earth, which is we were the youngest family on the earth. So that's clear. Leviticus 25, verse 44. Then I got a question for you. I got to ask you a question.
Time out. Wait, before we go to Leviticus 25, verse 34, I'd like to say
44, 44.
passage.
Yeah.
Okay, so once again, when I see this part where it says, you only have I known of all the families of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity.
Right.
What you said was, when I heard quote unquote, he's only known our bloodline. This is our bloodline. This is, our race, our bloodline. And once again, you're not only are you reading those into the passage, when you end up looking at what Israel looks like or what makes you an Israelite, you cannot, you seem to be ignoring circumcision, where there were non-Israelites who circumcised themselves and entered the covenant, therefore becoming Israelites. So when he says, you have I only known all the families of the earth, He's talking about a multitude of races who are underneath a covenant faith. That's what Israel actually looks like. Not only that, but even though it says that you have I only known, and therefore it will be you that I punish, um, he had promised Abraham that through you, all of the families of the earth will be blessed. And not only that,
Of
but
course.
you
Proverbs 29:2 says what?
you also
That when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. That's
actually
Proverbs 29:2.
the book of Jeremiah, where it says that I have scattered all these nations into captivity, and he
Right.
ended and I think Isaiah chapter 19 even punishing Egypt. He punished Elam. So God dealt with all nations. You know,
Of course.
yes,
Yeah.
but
He
only
was only if you read the translation, he was only intimate with Israel. You
right.
see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Now, yes, that's why Romans 3:1 says, "What advantage have the Jew? Chiefly everything, because let's get that Romans 3. It says, because to us was given the oracles of God." Let's go to Leviticus 25:44. Then I have a question for you. Then we go to the New Testament. This last scripture in the Old Testament.
okay.
Because I'm going to show the difference between the Jews and the Gentiles in the Old
So,
Testament. That there was a difference. Even those there were Gentiles that got circumcised that could come amongst Israel. But let's see what the scriptures say about that. As far as those Gentiles that were
all right, so
circumcised.
I'm at Leviticus 25:44. This is what it
Yeah,
says.
start at verse 43.
43. Okay, this is what it says. You shall not rule over him ruthlessly, but shall fear your God. As for your male and female slaves, whom you have, you may buy male and female slaves from among the nations that are around you. You may also buy from among the strangers who sojourn with you. And
Right, hold on. Now, hold on. The strangers that sojourn amongst us to talk about those who were circumcised. Read on.
no, it's not. Just because you sojourn.
Okay, whatever. Okay, read on.
Okay, thank you.
These are strangers that are sojourning amongst us. Read on.
Right. That does not mean at all that they were circumcised. Usually,
Okay, no problem. I won't read that in. I won't put that in there. Read on.
you may also buy from among the strangers who sojourn with you, and their clans that are with you, who have been born in your land, and they may be your property. You may
Read on.
bequeath them to your sons after you to inherit as a possession forever. You may make slaves of them, but
Right.
over your brothers, the people of Israel, you shall not rule.
Uh-oh.
One
So hold on. He made it clear the children of Israel cannot rule over other children of Israel. But the Gentiles, even the ones who were born amongst us, we could take them as slaves. Read that part again. Read that verse again for the people.
Sure. Got it. Verse 46. You may bequeath them to your sons after you to inherit as a possession forever. You may make slaves of them.
Right.
But over your brothers, the people of Israel, you should not rule.
Okay, so let's see how you're gonna twist this scripture to try to mean that it's talking about some Gentiles that got grafted in. Explain that verse. Explain those verses.
Sure. And by the way, before I explain that verse, I want to let you know that what you call twisting, I'm just calling keeping the covenant and scriptures consistent. I believe you've been the one that's doing the twisting because,
Right.
you've been corrected multiple times and trying to reading non-existent in the biblical.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and explain Leviticus 25:44 through 47. Explain that.
Yeah, first things first. It says that, but over your brothers, the people of Israel, you shall not rule over them, right? The brothers. In other words, you cannot rule over other Israelites. You can't do that. Now, these Gentiles over here, you can go ahead and, have them as your slaves, right? But your brothers over here, Israel, you can't do that. Once again, I do not see race in this passage is because every time I look over to the left and say, okay, let's analyze these brothers. What do you have? You have A, people that were born and that were circumcised on the 8th day. And then you have people who were from other nations and they circumcised themselves and they became brothers. That's what I'm seeing. Now, these people over here that may have come from other nations, but they didn't circumcise themselves. They may have come from other lands, but they just kind of sojourn among you. But they're not of your people. Why? not because they weren't born among you, because it does say that they were born among them. Oh, that doesn't make them Israelites. They weren't born to Jewish parents either, so that doesn't make them Israelites either. It's because they were not circumcised. That is why you have to carry that one covenant throughout the entire Old Testament. Why? Because, for example, even in Judith chapter 14, it actually says this. This is Judith 14, verses 5 and verses 10. This is what it says. Judith 14, here we go. Verse 5 and verse 10. This is what it says. But before you do these things, call me Achior, the Ammonite, that he may see and know him that despised the house of Israel, and has set him to us, or sent him to us as it were to his death. Okay, so Achior the Ammonite does not like Israel. Obviously, he's not an Israelite. Look at verse 10. And when Achior had seen all that the God of Israel had done, he believed in God greatly. Okay. He believed in God greatly and circumcised the flesh of his foreskin and was joined unto the house of Israel unto this day. That sounds very similar to Esther 8:17. It actually says that when the celebration that were among the Jews was from every town and every city, it says that the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews, for fear of the Jews fell upon them. Now, the Septuagint version, which is the actual Bible that the New Testament writers actually read from all.
No, you had the Leningrad Codex. You had the Masoretic text. You had the Septuagint.
Greek Septuagint, because it is the only translation from a lost Hebrew text that we have never recovered. This
exactly. Hold on, before you go there, go to Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 3. You just mentioned Ammonites. Now, this doesn't mean that they came into the congregation. Let's read the law on the Moabite and the Ammonite. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 3.
Sure, after Esther 8:17. This is what it says in the Septuagint version. It says, the Jews had joy and gladness, feasting and mirth, and many of the Gentiles were circumcised and became Jews for fear of the Jews. Now remember, the Septuagint was written in like 300 BC, 200 BC. This is how they're talking. They're talking very consistent with Genesis 17. What makes you an Israelite? Are you born an Israelite as a race, or are you circumcised and you enter a covenant that God started with Abraham?
Yeah, you don't realize how many your points you're making circular points. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 3.
Deuteronomy 23:3 says this. Let's see. Deuteronomy 23:3.
This is in the law. This is the law. So this is perpetual.
Okay. It says this. The Ammonite and the Moabite shall not enter into the assembly of the Lord, even until the 10th generation. He shall not enter into the assembly of the Lord even forever.
Yeah, look at the word forever. The word there, the Hebrew word is olam. It means forever. So Moabite and Ammonite cannot enter to the congregation. Now let's go to Revelation. Let's shift gears. I had a question for you before we get the question. Let's go to Revelation chapter 11, verse 2.
Nope, let's go ahead and look at it. So it says this, and I'm looking at it now. Just a second. And by the way, as I'm looking at this definition I'm about to read to you, there is a distinction between forever and the 10th generation. Obviously, if the Israelites, then this Ammonite had to fall under the 10th generation. But this is what it says. Long duration, antiquity, futurity, forever, ever, everlasting, evermore, perpetual, old, ancient world. Ancient time, long time, forever, always, continuous, perpetual, everlasting, indefinite, or unending future, eternity. So that's what the first part means. The second part means this. As far as, even to, up until, while, as far as, of space, as far as, even to, in combination, from, as, both, even to, until, unto, till, during, end, degree, even to, the degree of, even like, until, while, to the point that, so that even. So you have two parts of this forever. One part sounds like it's temporary, the other part sounds like it's eternal. This is also within the same passage that said you couldn't enter into the 10th generation. So once again, that's also a temporary. So just by numbers game, it sounds like this is being more temporary than forever. And I see that that's the reason why they circumcised that guy and he became an Israelite. So I don't know how you're going to take this passage and see what to say what it means, that it means forever in the way that you're saying.
Doesn't it say forever?
One part does and one part doesn't. But the tiebreaker is the earlier part in the verse where it says, not even to the 10th generation. So I guess that means after the 10th generation, it's all good. Which is the reason why
Right,
we're reading Judith 14 in the first place.
right. But
Go to Psalm
when
chapter
it
60,
yeah
verse
when
8.
it says to the when it says to the not even to the 10th generation, uh most Hebrews they try to they that's like almost another look stance on forever too, just as well when you start looking at it culturally. But I think that for the most part, I think it's one of the things you see about Ruth, right, about
Yeah.
Moabite. And see, this is why it's very important that you understand the culture of these people. When I get married, right, my wife, she takes on my name. So when it talks about, and then also you got to look at the congregation there too, because there's two congregations that's in Israel. There's the congregation that's of the priests, and also the congregation that's of the people. But really, what they looking at, because they looked at that too. When you look at his history, you look at the culture of it, and I've seen the Judah guy. I've seen his video and all of that. How he talked about Moab and where Moab is at, this and that, and she was a Moab. But actually, when you start looking at the people who have the history of the history that most black people in America claim to have, which they don't, they say that this lady was a Moabite. And so when you look at that, they say that she took on the name of an Israelite. So one of the ways we see even with Edom, they would choose, they would cease to exist as a name, as a people. It's just like when you and reason why I understand this is because I understand the culture of these people, and also somewhat of Asiatic culture, this up in the Nile Delta, and also some the culture of the Egyptians, the Comedics. And I'm just gonna say this, and I'm gonna end it with this: the Comedics, they have in what they call the Ren, and the Ren is one of the seven Egyptian aspects of existence, and the Ren is the name. And so if you cut someone's name off, then you cut the people off. So this is why when you look at even Israel, when it says, "Come, let us cut off the name," or let it, because if you cut the
Right.
name off of these people, then you cut their God. So when you look at it with Ruth, I mean with Ruth, she was a Moabitess. So she will leave that position. So when it said they cannot enter the congregation, it's saying that these people have to, their name, they have to be cut off. They have to leave their name in order to be with
Right.
Israel. You know what I'm saying? So I
Right.
think that that's what that's talking about. And then also when you get into, because there's some studies on that, because the reason why I'm approaching it this way is because you look at it that way too, but there's people that are atheists that says there's some contradictions there. And so we have to deal with it from a scholarly approach and look at it. What is the language saying? And what is the history of the culture of these people talking about? Therefore, we can put these things together, look at the language that's in the text biblically, and then also look at what's the history of the culture of these people that's performing the very text. So I think that's very important. I just want to bring that out.
That's an excellent point. Let's go to Psalm 60 and 8. I'll read it. It says, as far as Moab is concerned, Moab is my wash pot. So the Most High called Moab his wash pot. Over Edom will I cast my shoe, over Philistine triumphed though because of me. So Moab is the Most High's washpot, you know. So he doesn't think much of the Moabites. But yeah, let's go to Revelation chapter 11, verse.
But see, here's the thing. Like you have to be careful with that too, because you'll take that and you'll read that and you'll say, "Well, Moab is." I got an echo. Somebody got an echo. Like what was that? It's Psalms what again?
60 verse 8.
Okay, 60 verse 8. And all right, so right now, it says washpot, right? And so when you look at it and you look at the cultural context of it, washpot is basically, as you stated, it's a lowly vessel, and basically they use this vessel for washing their feet. Basically, that's what they used. So that's what they're looking at. Like when you look at certain other cultural context of it, and so when you look at it, a lot of these terms, like when you look at it, when it says the earth is the footstool of the Lord, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you gotta look at these texts and look at it, and look at the cultural context of those very texts. And even though we see that about Moab, Moab is also mentioned that they're in the last days that they're going to receive Israel, and as they have before, receive Israel as a fugitive when they running from the executioner or the extortioner. So you know, you got to look at that too, just as well. So, and what God said about Moab when they came out of Egypt.
Okay, I'm gonna make a quick point. Then I have a question for Brother Sorrel. I talked about this yesterday, but the audio wasn't good. Revelation chapter 7 talks about the 12 tribes of Israel. There were 12,000 from each tribe that are sealed as the elect. It's called the 144,000 in Revelation chapter 7. Now, if you read Revelation chapter 14, verse 3, it says that only the 144,000 know the new song that was being sung before the Lamb, before the throne of God. So I don't know if you take that this isn't literal. That's not literally the 12 tribes of Israel. But if you read the text, I don't know what your position is, what Brother G. Conscious position is, or Brother Sorrel, but it says in 14:3 that only the 144,000 know the new song. And this is a physical tribes of Israel, the physical descendants of Jacob. It's, you know, it's clear. It makes it clear that it's the actual 12 tribes. This excludes proselytes or the Gentiles. That so it's clear. It's clear. So there is a difference.
Right. Well, let me bring this out real quick so you can
For one I say real quick is, once again, that right there what you just did, it doesn't include proselytes or people who are converts. That's you're implying that. I just want to.
Okay, let's go there. Let's go there. Okay, let's go there. Go to Revelation chapter 7.
Wait. Hold on. I'm already there real quick. Let me go there. Let me read it since I'm already there. Let me read it.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah,
now
let's get into King.
It says I got it in the King James version. It says,
and
after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east. Somebody got an echo, so they got to mute their mic. Having the seal of the living God, and cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth. I'm sorry. It says, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. And the number one is, just to point out this portion right here, is these servants are getting sealed on their foreheads before they go through the trumpet, the trumpet judgments. Yeah. Before they go through these 7 trumpets, they're getting sealed. That means that these guys are still going to be on the earth and go through these trumpet judgments, but they're going to be sealed to so they won't have to experience what's coming on.
Down to verse 5. The point is verse 5.
Right. But hold on, brother. Listen. Slow it down, fam. Like you moving too fast. Just slow it down. You're gonna get, don't be in a rush with it. It's coming. I'm saying. And it says, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel, right? Now watch what it says. Let's jump to 5. We got all the tribes that's been sealed, from Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Nephthalim, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, and Joseph and Benjamin, right? Now, watch this verse 9, because this is the verse where they always miss this verse right here. And it's very important. Watch what it says. And after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number. Now, hold on for a minute. Now, it just numbered 144,000 up top, though, didn't it? GMS? Didn't it just number the
Right.
100?
These are Gentiles. In verse 9, it's talking about Gentiles.
Right. So watch what it says. So we see the 144,000 is sealed. Now they're sealed for a reason. They go through the trumpet judgments. These other guys, they're standing before God, and the 144,000, they're sealed to go through these very trumpet judgments. That's it, bro. And it's a reason for that, and we're gonna show you the reason for that. It says, and after that, it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and to the Lamb. So these are delivered folk.
Yeah, that's the point. So 144,000 is 144,000 of the tribes of Israel, and then there's the Gentiles, which are also included in Revelation chapter 7.
But the 144,000 is not just going to be what you see all Israel. It's going to be more Israelites, because we know that the 104,000 are used as a vessel.
Exactly.
They're used as vessels to actually bring a lot of those Israelites in during those trumpet judgments.
Right.
That's what they're used for.
Right.
So that's what that text is talking about.
No
So
problem.
it's not talking.
Let's go to chapter 14. Start at verse 1.
You said where? 14.
Revelations 14. The point is in verse 3. But
okay, Revelations 14, right. And so Revelations 14, 14 verse 1.
1 through 3.
1 through 3. It says, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the mount Sion. And you do realize that this very mount is in heaven, right?
Well, when you in heaven, which heaven? Because there's three heavens. There's the heavens, the sky, the space, and then there's the third heaven where Yahweh, the Most High, lives. So
right.
Which
this
heaven
is this is in heaven. This is where the third one at, the third heaven.
Okay. Well, you gotta prove that.
Okay. Right. I'm gonna pull it right here. I'm gonna pull. Watch what it says.
Before you get there, let's finish reading this.
Right. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna prove it right. It's right in the text. It says, I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the mount Sion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. And watch what it says. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps, and they sung as it were a song before the throne. So they before the throne. They're in heaven right now. They're in Mount Sinai that's in heaven, because you know that there is a Mount Sinai that's in heaven, on the third heaven, according to Hebrews chapter 12. And also Galatians says that there's a Mount Sinai too, just as well. But watch what it says. It says, and no man could learn the song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. When were they redeemed from the earth? Which were redeemed from the earth.
144,000 knew this new song. So the Gentile converts, the proselytes, don't know the new song, according to Revelation chapter 14 and 3, and the other Israelites don't know the new song. Only the elect, which we teach are the elect, know this new song. So the Gentile proselytes don't know this new song. So there's a difference between a proselyte and a bloodline descendant of Jacob.
Right. But hold on. There's some other things that you might want to look at too. That's why I say be very careful when you hold on. Let me finish this off, and I'm gonna let you. Go ahead. Let me finish this. When not only that is, you have to understand this, brother. When you're looking at this text, you need to look at other texts. You can't just take that text and say, "Oh man, it's this and that." No, bruh. When you look at it, there are some things that the Gentiles are given with the white robes that the 144,000 is not gonna have.
So you got to understand and look at it and say that each one of these people are given something for their assignment that everybody is just not gonna have. That's dealing with the 144,000
Yeah,
and
there's a
everybody
body,
else.
but the body, each part of the body has different functions.
Right,
But
right.
one body,
So you can't expect. So you can't expect for okay just because I get Lularon a wristband that what's called might he got to get a wristband too. I might get him something else. He probably don't even want the wristband. He probably ain't even deserve another wristband. So the 144,000 have a special task, and they fulfill that task, and therefore they're able to actually sing this song. You know, and let's really look at it and look at what it says. Let's look at it why it says that. It says that, and they sung as it were a song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders. And mind you not, that 144,000 is not is consists of nothing but Israelites. But there also are natural Israelites that's outside of those Israelites who are going to be saved by the
of
144,000. So
course,
they're not even gonna be singing that song.
of
So
course, because hold on, doesn't Matthew tell you that the 12 disciples going to sit over the 12 tribes of Israel, judging them on 12 thrones?
right. Right. So that's all I want to point out. It's like it's not even no point of you really bringing that out as if you know there's a and I understand Vocab's position, but I don't agree with Vocab's position on that.
Right, right. Yeah.
You know,
We tried to make an allegory. So read verse 3 again.
and mind you, not Vocab really too much. He don't really deal with a lot of eschatology like that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I
that's
talked to
probably
him.
why.
I talked to him about this. Yeah. Read verse 3 again.
In verse 3 it says, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth.
Yeah, so only these Israelites, the physical Israelites, know the new song. The proselytes don't know the new song, and the other Jakes, the other Israelites who are not, the elect,
They
don't
don't
know
know
the
the
new
new
song.
song either.
Yeah, they don't. So only Israel knows. Only the elect of Israel knows. Now Romans 8:23, I believe it says that we are joint heirs with Yahweh Shai or Jesus Christ. We're joint heirs. You see what I'm saying? So we're gonna
Right. Right. So I just wanted to
That's
bring that up. But
Hold on, G.
I know so real want to say something. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a what is your point in pointing this out? I'd like to know.
My point is that there's a difference between in Revelation 14:3 it says only the 144,000 know this new song. So the proselytes that are talked about in Revelation 7 verse 9 of all nations, kindreds, and tongues, there's a difference between the elect of Israel.
Time out. Those aren't proselytes. Proselytes are people who convert to the Jewish religion. Those aren't Jews. Those are actually Christians. That's consistent because they're actually dressed in white robes. That's the same white robes that Jesus spoke about in one of his parables when he invited everybody to the marriage supper of the Lamb.
Okay.
Christians. So I don't know how you're getting proselytes out of that.
If you read the prophecies in the Old Testament, we're still going to be keeping the law in the kingdom. Still going to be in place. We're still going to be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles. We're still going to be keeping the High Holy Days. It's clear. Now, brother, G Consciousness said that we're going to be in the actual heaven, right?
I'm out. But before we even go into that, by the way, I'm on my cell phone, which means I could be talked over at will. Before we go into that, I just once again I'm trying to see like is what you're saying is this is what I'm getting. The only difference between the 144,000 and other Israelites and all the other Gentiles is a song. Is this what you're trying to get everyone to see?
Yeah, so what does the song mean? What is the act? Let's go to Psalms 147 real quick. Hold on, let me get the scripture.
Okay, we can move on now. Go ahead. I don't care.
Well, I have the audience have a quick question for GMS really quick. This is from Brother Eddie. He says, please ask GMS why Paul was trying to convert King Agrippa in Acts as a brother and the faith in Christ.
Okay, well
Yeah.
yeah, right. That goes back to Acts the 21st chapter, where you got the guy Paul or Saul, got his name changed to Paul, tried to bring a Gentile into the inner court. Revelation 11:2 tells you that the outer court is not measured by the angels because it's given to the Gentiles. Luke 21:24 says we're living in the time of the Gentiles. He tried to bring a Gentile to the inner court, and the Jews wanted to stone him to death for doing it. So yeah. As far as the whole Saul argument, before I finish that question with Brother Eddie, Brother So Real, can we go to Psalms 147, start at verse 19 through 20? And you're in the NAV, right? You said you're in the what? I can't remember.
I'm in the ESV.
Yeah, Psalms 147, 19 through 20.
Psalm 147. Here it is.
19 through 20. Because the question is, what does this song represent? You know what I mean? Anyway, Psalms 147, 19 through 20.
19 through 20, and it says, oh, good. Okay. Yeah, I remember this one. Now, I do want to let you know that all the Psalms are actually written in different times. I actually got this from Blue Letter Bible.
Yeah, because the book of Psalms, like the Muslims with the Hadith, I speak Arabic, obviously, not fluently, but I'm intermediate. They sing the Hadiths. They recite the Hadiths. They sing it. They got that from the Jews. Like the elders say, when you read the Psalms, you're supposed to sing the Psalms. The word Psalm actually means to sing, but the Hebrew word there is Tehillim. Anyway, let's go to Psalms 147, 19 through 20.
Okay, so this is what it says. It says, oh, here it is. Okay. This is the ESV. He declares his word to Jacob, his statutes and rules to Israel. He has not dealt thus with any other nation. They do not know his rules. Praise the Lord.
Whoa, and at the end, he said, praise the Lord to that. So he says he had revealed his law unto Jacob, which was his father of the 12 tribes. His laws and decrees unto Israel. He has not dealt so with any other nation. That's clear.
Okay, so what is the point of pointing this out? What is your take on this passage?
Go to Romans chapter 3, start at verse 1.
No. What is your take on this passage before we go to any other?
Go ahead and explain what it means, because I know you have a position on the passage. That's your
Romans. Excuse me. Romans could stay on its own. I'm asking you, what does Psalm 147, 19 through 20 mean to you?
Go ahead and interpret that. I know you have a position on it, so go ahead and give us your position.
No, time out. I'm asking your position because I've been doing my work all night. It's your turn. Ball's in your court. What does this mean?
Yeah, it's clear. He never gave his laws to any other. He never dealt so with any other nation. He only dealt with Israel.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
In terms of what?
Right. Now let's go to Romans chapter 3, verse 1. It's going to answer.
I'm asking you a question. In terms of what?
Let me read Romans chapter 3. It's going to explain
what Romans 3. Well, it'll be there when we're done with this. You pointed out something in the verse. He says he has not dealt thus with any other nation. All right, and so in terms of what?
It's clear. It's like it says, the halakha, the laws, the statutes. Leviticus 26:46.
Okay, so that's a difference between not dealing with any other nation in terms of all of the statutes and laws, and not dealing with any other nation at all. Period. That's a big difference. Right.
Well, that's what Romans chapter 3, verse 1 says. I read it. What advantage still after Jew? Or what profit is there in circumcision? Much every way. Chiefly because that unto them will commit the oracles of God.
Another big deal about the phrase praise the Lord. So I have a question about that. Do you think this psalmist is saying praise the Lord because, of what you think he means by saying he hasn't dealt so with any other nation? Or is he saying praise the Lord because he declares his word and his commandments to Israel?
Right. I don't have a problem with it any of those ways.
No, I'm asking you a question. Like, do you think that he's praising the Lord because he hasn't given the laws and all that to any other nation, or is he praising the Lord because God has given the laws to Israel and he's praising God for that? Which one? Why? Which one do you think he's?
I don't have a problem with it any way. Any of those ways.
All right, we go Romans 3 now.
Yeah. Now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just read Romans 3. I don't know if you heard me. Now I have a question for Brother Sorrel, and I guess Brother J-Con could step in on this. I don't know if you believe in the third temple that has to be built by the Israelites, because there was 2 temples that got destroyed. And then the third temple is the temple, they call it in Judaism the temple of Ezekiel. In Ezekiel chapter 40 through 46, it talks about it shows the measurements of the temple, the walls, the windows and everything. So there's a third in the Old Testament, there's a third temple in prophecy that has to be built by Israel through the other nations. Now here's my question. Now GMS, we teach that.
Can you
huh?
You said that there has to be a temple that's built by the other nations. I'm assuming in the end time.
Right. Before I go there, some Israelites teach, because that's what I was going to earlier. After the Babylonian captivity, the Persians sent us back through King Cyrus or King Darius. He sent us back to the land to build the temple. And some Israelites teach that that's what's going to happen in the last days. The nations are going to send us back to go build the temple. Now GMS teaches that the America is going to be destroyed by nuclear fire, and while it's being destroyed, the angels are going to beam us up into heaven and bring us back to Jerusalem while America is being destroyed in the Third World War. So I don't know what your position was on that. Which one do you go with? How are we going to go back? Do you believe in World War III? Do you believe in the third temple? And that's my question for you guys, for you and G-Con.
What are they going to beam you up with?
Well, the elders teach that we're going to be beamed up like our ancestors used to sing the song, "Swing low, swing chariot, come forth to carry me home." Mm-hmm. Now the UFOs are going to come. The UFOs are the chariots of God. They're going to pick us up while America's being destroyed and beam us up into heaven. That's what Revelations it says, "Come up hither, that you be not partakers of her plagues." So we're going to be brung up into the heavens while America's being destroyed, and the angels are going to bring us back to the land of Jerusalem, where we're going to come out the spaceships with the glorified bodies and go pick up the Rothschilds and the elite of the society, Jews, and bring them back to be slaves. That's what the GMS teaches. Now, some other doctrines, they teach that the nations are going to send us back on ships and on airplanes and send us back to the land where we're going to rebuild the temple. So there's 2 differentiations between the 2 doctrines amongst Israel, the New Testament Israelites and the Old Testament Israelites. So I want to know what your position was on that.
Go ahead.
My position is that the final temple to come will not be built by any human hands. It will come down from heaven from God. That temple is sometimes called the New Jerusalem. The temple is also called, the Tabernacle of God. And that is according to Revelation chapter 21. And no matter what kind of temple is rebuilt, in terms of the third temple is not the final temple that will be the blessing for the followers of Jesus Christ. It's just not. Because if you're saying that this temple is going to be rebuilt, and we have in Revelation 21 that there is, a tabernacle of God coming down from heaven, and it's called the New Jerusalem, Holy Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem. And someone says that, oh, behold, the temple of God is now with men. That is the temple, uncorrupted, not built by any hands, because it's coming down out of heaven from God to earth. The new earth, according to Revelation 21, verses 1 through 4. The new heaven and the new earth. That's the final thing to look forward to. And UFOs don't play a role in that. being swept back and put back into Israel doesn't play a role in that, because now there's a new earth, and also there's a new heaven, and there is a temple coming down to be a part of all that. And
so let me ask you, how are we going to go back? The Israelites that are in diaspora, because we're scattered all across the whole planet. When we go back to Israel, how are we going to get there? Are the UFOs going to pick us up, or the nation's going to send us back? What's your position on that?
my position is that I believe you're getting different things mixed up, because Revelation chapter 21 does not speak of anything like that happening during that last and final happily ever after. Now, whatever you're talking about, it has to happen before the new heaven and the new earth. I guess my final point that I will say is this: which one of our end times is going to come first? Is it mine or is it yours?
Do you believe in World War III? World War III, because Revelation 7 and 8 talks about the 6 trumpets which have been blown.
Hold on, brother. Jim S, hold on. Back up. I want to hear G-Con's position also on that, what you just said before regarding the UFO situation. So the audience also wants to hear G-Con speak as well, if he doesn't mind addressing that. Okay, he must be busy.
Okay, let's go to Zechariah chapter 12, verse 9.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, G-Con. They want to hear you.
Yeah.
Good, man. Good old time.
There are no UFOs at all that's in the Bible at all. They might use the text Ezekiel, but once again, that's going against all. They'll use Zechariah chapter 5 when they talk about the ancient scroll. But when you look at those ancient scrolls, you still have the Jewish people that still have those ancient long scrolls today. It's in the canister that is being mentioned in Zechariah 5. And then Ezekiel, when it says a wheel inside a wheel, it's not talking about a UFO, because, matter of fact, when we start looking at some of the UFOs and some of the stuff that we see today or whatever, I don't know if he's talking in the sense of an unidentified obstacle, object. Object, and that's probably in the sense that he's talking about. But this very it's actually a chariot. That's what it is. And in the chariot, above the chariot, there's a cloud. What we call what most people call most people might call it the Shekinah glory or something like that. Or there's this cloud, and it's this pillar of fire, and there's this thundering that comes out of this cloud. Well, below the cloud is the actual chariot of God, and these creatures, are these beasts. And that's what we see. And when you look at a wheel within a wheel, it's basically talking about a chariot, and the beasts have these wheels on the side of them. And because we have these objects that's on the earth, when we look at Ezekiel, when the spirit of the beast is in the wheel. So let's say, for instance, if they come into contact with a mountain, because the surface of the earth is really rocky. What happens is the very wheels go up. The beast goes up, and then the wheels come to the side of the beast. But when they get over the mountain, they go down, and then the wheels. The beasts go down, and the wheels go down, because the spirit of the wheels, the spirit of the beast is in the wheels, because the eye, and it's symbolic and figurative of the eyes, because it's showing you that the very wheels see just like the beast see, because the spirit of that beast is in the wheels. So it's talking about really the unity. But this is the chariot of God, and it's not like no regular UFO that you see that's made out of tin and metals and stuff like that. Now, it's just ridiculous, and you don't find any UFO objects in the Bible at all. I don't know why they would use that and say the Lord's going to come down in this spaceship and beam them up. No, when we talk about appearing and disappearing and stuff like that, this is basically dealing with, how God manifests himself in and out the material world. You know what I'm saying? And
let me ask you a question. How are we going back? Are the nation's going to send us back like Darius did after the Medes when they send us back to build the temple?
It's going to be the same way. It's going to be the same way. He's going to bring them back by ship, also by all that types of that. And that's what the scripture says in Isaiah 11, actually, and a lot of other texts.
So let's go hold on. So what's your position on Matthew 24:31?
What does it say?
And it says that the angels are going to gather the elect in the four corners of the earth. Let's get that real quick. Matthew, I think it's, let me get it. Yeah, Matthew 24:31. You do believe in World War III, right?
Yeah, I believe in World War III establishes the seventh kingdom that we're gonna see to rule the
Right,
world.
right, exactly. Because yeah, if you know the six trumpets have been blown. The seventh trumpet is the return of Yahweh Shai, as I proved on my channel. Let's go to Ezekiel
You said
39
they've
before
been
we
blown.
go.
You said they've been. Wait, you said that they've been blown already. Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
the six trumpets have already been blown. The seventh
Uh,
trumpet is the return of Yahweh Shai, Jesus Christ. That would be the seventh trumpet. I can prove that. But anyway,
that
let's
they
go to Matthew 24,
Jacob's.
31.
You got to slow
Yeah,
down.
Matthew 24:31.
The audience is trying to keep up with you, so slow down one scripture at a time, dear brother, please.
Yeah, first let's go to Matthew 24,
Right,
31.
right.
Then we're going to go to Ezekiel 39.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, read Matthew 24:31 if you could. Maybe Sister Cherry wants to read it. I don't know.
Yeah, right now I'm kind of like at the truck stop to get a shower, so I'm just
Oh, that's
waiting
fine.
on. I mean, you can read it,
Matthew
man.
24, verse 31.
Yeah. Okay.
And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
Right. So it says the angels are going to gather us from the four corners of the earth to bring us back, obviously, to Jerusalem. Now, I know Brother G-Con was saying that we're going to be in heaven, in the third heaven. I wonder if we could go to Revelations 5 and 10 real quick, and then we go to Ezekiel 39.
Okay, did you want them to address Matthew 21:31,
Yeah,
or you?
yeah. Right, yeah. Address that, yeah.
Okay,
Brother
that's up
G-Con,
to them. Okay, I guess not. Okay, so Revelations, you said what now? Revelation
5 and 10.
5 and 10? Okay, here we go. Sorry. And it reads, and hath made us unto our God kings and priests. And, oh, I'm sorry. Am I the right one? I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. And has made unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth.
Right. So it says, if we read Psalms 55, you know, the kings and priests of Israel, and we shall reign on the earth. So it says we shall reign on the earth. So I don't know where this whole, we go to the third heaven doctrine is coming from, you know, this wayward doctrine. Now let's go to
Yeah,
Ezekiel 30.
hold on, brother, because wait. You gotta give people a chance to address what you're saying. Now,
Okay.
I'll take a shower. Yeah. Yeah. So you yeah. So yeah. You said you don't know. Okay. You said you don't know where they're going or how they going to heaven or something like that. Now when you look at the scriptures, it's clear that Daniel 70 week. We're in the 69th week. Do you know anything about Daniel 70 weeks?
Oh, hold on,
Of
just a
course.
minute, Con. Hold on, just a second. I wanted to point something out because this is one of the passages that I use in my presentation. When you read Revelation chapter 5, verse 10, you assumed that these were Israelites. I'd like to read a little further up. Verse 9 says, and they sang a new song, saying, worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God from every tribe and language and people and nation. And you have made them a kingdom and priests to our God, and they shall reign on the earth. Now, I kind of thought that this was something that we all kind of read a little earlier when we were talking about these people who were clothed in white and they sang before the Lamb. Also, this is also the same people that are actually mentioned in other parts of Scripture of the Book of Revelation. You know, and they say the same thing. Here, let me show you. Um, it says, okay, here it is. I believe Revelation 22, 20 and 6, I think. This is what it says. Blessed and holy is the one who shares in the first resurrection. Over such the second death has no power, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and they will be given, they will reign with him for 1,000 years. Now, when you read the surrounding verses of Revelation 20, verse 6, it's talking about the persecuted Christians, and this is going to be their reward. So far, that's two scriptures where it's showing, and I also have a third one in Revelation chapter 1, verse 6. It says, and made us a kingdom and priests to his God and Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. In all three of those, Revelation 5:10, Revelation 1:6, and Revelation 20, verse 6, is talking about persecuted Christians every single time.
I disagree.
Well, you'll get.
I disagree with that. Let's
No,
go
no,
to
no,
Luke 19:27 real quick.
please show me that it's talking about
Right,
Jews.
but right, and that's a I don't know. That's an excellent point you brought out because I don't know why he actually think. But what I want to bring out the very scripture that you read when it says, um, where they're going to be talking about going to heaven or. You notice it says they when you read that very text, they're right before the throne. They're in heaven, right there. And so they're going to be going to the earth, but at that point they're in heaven. So we believe that
Okay.
the
Okay. Okay, I
right. So
got you.
so
Let's go to Luke
right.
chapter
So
19.
hold on, bro. You right, but I know
Let him
you
finish.
probably got
Let him
me.
finish.
You probably got me, but we got an audience that they want to hear too. You know, I know y'all used to with this precept packet that y'all got, but
Yeah, now, you do agree we're going back to the earth, right?
right, we're going back to the earth definitely. Yeah, and
Okay, great, great.
but I just want to show you that that there is going to be a period of what you stated earlier. You said, and then we're gonna go back to the point that Israel was. I mean, that so real was bringing out. You stated earlier though that concerning the Jacob's troubles or the judgment or the seven trumpets have started already. That's what you said. The seven trumpets have started already.
Six trumpets have already been blown.
Right when the seven trumpets have started, we're supposed to be in Jacob's troubles. That's what's going to happen. Jacob's troubles, and that's a whole week, which is 7 years. So I'm just trying to
Right.
see where did you get the even ten kings have been established as. I don't even see that World War III is to establish the seventh kingdom and 10 kings, and then there's still a kingdom that comes about of the seventh kingdom, which is the
Right.
eighth kingdom
Mm.
which we know is the Little Horn's kingdom, which he actually come up against three of those kings,
Yeah, the
and
two little
then
horns will be Sunni and Shia Islam. This will
there's
be
not two little horns at all. There's one little
yeah, the
horn. It's
two,
not two little horns.
let me see if I got that right. Anyway, let's go to Luke 19:27 real quick.
Right, but hold on. I just want to make my point real quick because you running through a lot of scriptures. So what I was saying was this is the Daniel chapter 9, Daniel chapter 7. It says that there is a little horn, and that little horn comes up out of uh after I'm sorry, the 10th horns, and that 10th horn that we see is on that is in the seventh kingdom. And so when you're saying that the Jacob's troubles or the judgments have trumpet judgments have started already, not even let alone the seals, you out of there with that. So I don't even know how where you even got that from, but I just wanted to make that
Out of
point.
Revelation 13 and 11, it talks about the two horns that came out the lamb.
What two horns that come out of what lamb? What you talking about, the lamb, which is Christ, or what? What are you talking about?
That's Revelation
You
chapter
talking about?
13, verse 11.
Oh, you
All
talking
right,
about the beast? You talking about the beast, basically?
Yeah, yeah. I saw a second beast coming out of the earth that had two horns like a lamb, but it spoke
Right,
like
but
a.
that has right. That has nothing to do with uh Daniel chapter 7
No, yeah,
concerning
I know what
what it
Precious
does have
trying
something to do with. It has some yeah, it has something to do with it. But I'm talking about the little horn, which is the Antichrist.
right,
The two
right, right.
horns of that that's the false prophet. Though. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Another
Let's go to
beast
Luke
was among.
19:27 real quick, and then Ezekiel 39. I know we pressed for time. Luke 19:27. If the sister want to get there, and then Ezekiel 39.
No, we got plenty of time. We're not pressed for time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Luke 19:27
It
real
says,
quick.
"But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them," it says, "bring hither and slay them before me." Yes,
Right. So who's speaking there?
this is Christ speaking here.
Right. So read that again.
It says, "But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me."
Right. So there's going to be an actual kingdom with an actual king, which is going to be Yahweh Shai, until he gives the kingdom back
Right,
over to the Most High. See what I'm saying? He said
right.
those enemies, because they're not going to accept him because he's black. He's a big black king.
No,
You're going to have those Gentiles who are not going to accept him.
wait. Hold on. Let me hold that for a minute. Hold that. First
Yeah.
of all, you said they're not gonna accept him because he's black. Listen, bro, it's not because he's black. That's the first thing you gotta understand. You know, I don't know if he's black or not. The scriptures don't tell me if he was black or not. That's the
Well,
first
he
thing.
said it's clear he was black. It's clear.
Right. I haven't seen one scripture that said that he was black. I really
Yeah.
don't really care if he's black,
Brother,
white, or whatever.
the brother Hakeem
Right. Right.
Bazemore, if you go to his website, 1,000 streams, he has an ebook on how the Jews look black during the time.
But listen, that's fine. That's fine and dandy. But the Dravidians is they say they black, but they not black.
Right,
So
but they
if
lack
you give it
classic
with
Negroid
right, if you
features.
give
They lack
right, but
classic Negroid features. You see what I'm saying?
they like what? They like what?
They lack classic Negroid features. You know,
Negroid features. Right. But hold on. Let me for the most part. Let me say this real quick. Now, I don't have Negroid features. So when you say Negroid features, you're talking about basically a subgroup that we see that come up out of Sahara Africa, so to
right.
speak. When you say Negro features, so you saying like you the way you talk, well, you probably don't even have Negroid features. So just to say that
Well, of course, a
this
lot
is
of us are mixed. We mixed it like we mixed in. A lot of us are mixed now.
right, but
Anyway,
just to,
let's.
but hold on, let me bring out something just to say that they're not gonna accept him because he's black. Where do you get that from, bro? That's not even scripturally taught at all. No, they're not gonna accept his kingdom because they're not gonna accept him because he's righteous. That's why, and they hate righteousness because when you look at it, anybody the world love his own, and the world accepts those people that we see that loves the lust of money, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes. So it's not because you're saying that he's black, because you don't even know that. I don't even know. Show me a scripture where it says that he's black at.
Well, I can show that the Israelites were black people. Were black and are black today. And are the shoot with a
Right,
Negro.
but hold on, no.
Are the
What you
shoot
can't
Israelites?
listen, bruh. You can't just the Israelites were a mixed people because the Israelites were scattered between almost
Of
all the
course,
nations. Right. So
of
hold on for
course,
a
yeah.
minute. Hold on. So number one is this is when you look at the Israelites, those people that we see looked at like Arabic people. These people were not black people. They were not sub-Saharan African people. Matter of fact, when we look at Egyptians, the Egyptians got pictures of these guys, and they look like Arabs, bro. They don't look like black people. So that's like me. I don't really look like when it depends on if you're saying Cushitic people
Well,
or whatever
if you
type of
study,
people you're talking about.
well, yeah. I mean, I have history to prove that Shem was black. The ancestor of the Israelites was black. That Shem was a black man.
Right. You
Um,
don't know. Listen, bro. You don't have no pictures that Shem was black, and if you do, you idol worship. That's the first thing.
no, I have the history. I have the history in my new ebook, which you can find at
Right,
lulu.com.
but listen, you got the ebook. Your ebook is not the Bible. I want you to understand that there is no color given
Right.
to tell you what
But
color. There's
let's
only
talk about Songs of
like
Solomon, chapter 1, verse
when
5.
when you say Adam, when you
There's
say
Songs
what
of
color.
Solomon. Songs of Solomon. Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5 says, I am black but comely. Now, the person speaking there is the Shulamite woman, Abishag, and she was from the tribe of Issachar. So if you look up the word black but comely there, it
Right,
says it's.
that's fine. That's hey, listen, they called the
It
they
said,
called the
hold on.
wait, hold
What is
on.
saying this?
One at a
It says she
time.
was dusky. It says
Right,
that she was dusky. If you look up the word dusky in dusky skin or Google, the first thing that comes up is a sister, a black woman who was dusky. So she was describing
But
herself
we
black.
listen. We understand that because as I told you before, that there were like you can't listen, bro. You're not gonna sit up here and say that everybody that was in Israel was just black people. That's just retarded, bro. You're not gonna do that, bro,
I'm
because
not, I'm not saying it.
because
No, never. I'm not saying.
right. But what I'm saying is this is that these nations of people that came out, or these different tribes of people that came out, they had different mothers. That's the first thing. They went up to the people
Well,
that
hold on. Wasn't Ephraim
well,
and Manasseh's mother Egyptian?
well hold on, listen, bro. They went. These people come from Syria. You know what Syria is at?
No, I said wasn't Ephraim and Manasseh's mother Egyptian?
Yeah, right, right, and yeah, we know that. And then not only that is, what about where they come from? They went. Jacob went and got the children of Laban. That's who he went and got. He went and got the children of Laban. Them people come from Syria. Them people are from Aram.
But the Israelites, the Israelite tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh, their mother was a black woman, an Egyptian woman, which was a
Well,
black
hold
woman.
on.
They look
Listen, bro.
black.
Listen. Wait. Hold on. Listen, bro. Not all Egyptians is black. Egyptians didn't even depict themselves black like that. If you look at it, they depicted themselves as red, ruddy people. So that's what I'm telling you, bro. You can see, like you can look at the Dravidians today. They dark blacker than me, but
Let me ask you a question.
those
Was
people are
it one
not
of
black, bro.
Moses's? One of Moses's. When remember when Moses did the miracle where he changed
Right.
himself white,
Right.
leprous and snow.
Right.
Now let me ask you a question. If he
Listen,
was
my
already
son.
white, if he was
Listen. My
already
son.
white,
Right. Well, hold
if
on.
he was
Listen,
already
bro. Listen. Well, hold on. Listen, though. Because you bringing out these old pseudo arguments, bruh. So listen, if I put my hand and if my son is light skinned or either Arabs, if an Arab put his hand in a close, put his hand, I mean, take his hand out of his bosom and become white, right? We can see that it's a lighter color than what he is. That doesn't necessarily make him black. I'm telling you right now, those people look like they look back then. They don't look like they look back then because they've been mixed with a lot of people, but they came out
right,
being mixed with a lot of people.
right, right,
So
right.
when you say black, that's a derogatory term in the
Let me ask
first
you a question. You
place. You
think
know what
that would
I'm
have
saying?
been miraculous? You think that would have been miraculous to the Egyptians if he was an Arab? Wouldn't it have been more miraculous if he was a really dark skinned man? Would
No,
it
I
have been
wouldn't have been
miraculous?
because when you understand leprosy and and when you understand it would have been miraculously. Just think about it. If you took your hand out your bosom and it comes out a color shade of lighter than what you know you are, that ain't miraculous. Come on, bro. I don't care. If you listen, if you was white and you put your hand in your bosom and it came out super red or whiter, brighter than what it's supposed to be. Because when you look at it, if you look at it,
Right.
and I'm gonna say this last point. I'm gonna say this last point. Everybody always want to talk about white people, right? But white people is just really a shade lighter than brown. That's what y'all don't understand. See, Adam
What
was
sort of
ruddy.
Noah does white people descend from? Ham, Shem, or Japheth?
You got it doesn't matter because when you say Japheth, see that's why you've been tricked. Do you know there's Hamites? Do you know who the Heth is? Heth come from Canaan, and Heth is a Hittite, and Canaan come from Ham. So when we look at Heth, right? Heth is basically he's a when you look at we got pictures of them on the walls of Karnak when they battled against Ramses II,
No,
and
you
these
just said
people.
the Israelites look like Arabs. Wasn't Moses mistaken for an Egyptian? Wasn't Paul mistaken for an Egyptian?
Wait,
Wasn't
right.
Joseph?
Well, in Paul's time, who do you think was ruling at that time? At the time, the Egyptians,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same
But if
people.
you read the history, you know
I'm
that
just
the priest
asking you, bro.
class was
Listen,
still in Egypt. The
well,
priestly
let me
class was still in
no,
Egypt.
listen, bro. Listen. You're wrong, fam. Historically, the very people that was ruling there at that time in Egypt was those same Arab people that we see there today, fam. That's the truth. That's historically accounted for.
Okay,
The
okay,
Coptics and all of them, bro. So you're not gonna tell these people that because I study Egypt. I study Egypt. So when
okay.
you look at it, those people was pushed all the way down to the south during the time of Taharka, bro. Around about the 20
All
to
right.
around when you start looking at the 25th to the 31th dynasty, them people are already pushed to the
Okay.
south. So the
Okay. But
Egyptians was
what about
always a
Moses?
mixed
Wasn't he
people
mistaken
too.
for an Egyptian?
You said was it during Moses' time? Was Moses was up under Asiatic what you call Joseph them and all Moses them they was up under Asiatic priesthood. That's what you
Well,
don't
even Afro
understand.
centuries say that the Hyksos were black. And if you do the history, you know the Israelites could have
You
robbed
said the Afro. Who said that?
a lot of the Afrocentrics. They came
Right,
out and said that.
but listen, bro. You just said it. The Afrocentrics. They believe everything black. Can you actually believe just like you believe everything black? You done lost your
No,
mind
no,
if you
no,
believe
because
that.
no, no, most Afrocentrics say that the Hyksos were foreigners. They were Asiatic invaders. But they came out and said That they were black, but they had white moms, but they had black fathers.
Right, but that's a lie, fam. We already got pictures of the we listen. We see what the Hyksos look like. So
Okay.
that's just a lie, man. Like bottom line, some of those people was Egypt was a mixture of those people that was from the south and also those people just from the north. They was Asiatics that was in the delta, a mixture. That's why they presented themselves as ruddy people and they had birds. Native Egyptians didn't even have birds because they had a lot of lice back then. So and then some of them couldn't even grow birds. Those people in Nubia, they can't grow no birds, dude. So just to even say that, that's why they depicted themselves as ruddy. Even Adam, the very word Adam means ruddy, and it is a reddish or brick or mahogany type of color. But that's what the Egyptians depicted themselves as. So just do historically, man. When you study, everything is not black. And like I say, show me a scripture that says that Christ was black. You're not gonna find it, fam. If you go to that Revelations, you lying on that, bro, because that's not talking about that.
I can read an excerpt from my new ebook where I can prove that according to ecclesiastical traditions, Shem was black like Ham, while Japheth was white. So Shem was the progenitor of the Israelites, which he was black. Rabbi, I believe his name was. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it says Al-Tabari, the famed Muslim historian and Quranic exegete, recorded in his Tariq al-Rusul al-Muluk, the history of the messengers and kings, the following on the authority of Allah Abbas, the king, the cousin of the Prophet Muhammad. The children of Shem settled in the center of the earth, which is between Satima and the sea, and between Yemen and Syria. Allah made the prophets from them, revealed the books to them, gave them a black complexion. So it says that
Right. No, nobody
Shem had
listen.
a black.
Nobody listen. Nobody has ever. I don't care even if the Jews said. I seen Zion Lex try to bring out and some writings of in the Talmud and different stuff. Listen, nobody has never seen Shem before. And if they was, then we need them very writings historically. If it's a Mishnah, a Midrash, or whatever it is, maybe that can help us. But nobody has never seen him Shem at all. Let alone they don't even really know who Melchizedek was. There's word right, but hold on. The Hebrew doesn't suggest that because in his name you have, I believe you have some a couple of nouns within the very word Melchizedek. They believe it means the priest of Sadek. That's what they believe it means. So, so just to sit up there and say that this is did you know or you got this special revelation because some Jew or some what's called said that he was black and you pull out an ebook. They got ebook for Madden 18. Madden 17, Madden 18, ebooks for Madden 17. That doesn't mean that anybody can make an ebook. So what is you talking about?
Okay.
I'd like to point out something. You went to Luke 19. I don't think you even read. I don't even think you understand what Luke 19 even is. Do you realize that this is a parable? This is a parable of the pounds committed by a prince to his servants and of the vengeance taken by him on his rebellious subjects. This is what this is about. So for you to say that, oh, he's going to destroy his enemies, and you mentioned other things about, that's why we're not going to have mercy on them in the kingdom. We're going to destroy them. It ain't got nothing to do with that.
It's good to say we shall do in Edom according to the Most High's anger. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 39. Let's start at verse verse 10.
And guess what? Edom ain't nowhere in Luke 19. Matter of fact, I'll read it from the easy to read version, the ERV. This is what it says. Verse 22. Then the king said to the servant, "You bad servant, I will use your own words to condemn you. You said that I am a hard man. You said that I even take money that I didn't earn and gather food that I didn't grow. If this is true, or if that is true, you should have put my money in the bank. When I came back, my money would have earned some interest." Then the king said to the men that were watching, "Take the bag of money away from this servant and give it to the servant that had 10 bags of money." Then the men said to the king, "But sir, that servant already has 10 bags of money." Then the king said, the person that uses what he has will get more, but the person that does not use what he has will have everything taken from him. Verse 27. Now where are my enemies? Where are the people that did not want me to be their king? Want me to be king? I like that. I'm gonna read that again. Where are my enemies? Where are the people that did not want me to be king? Bring my enemies here and kill them. I will watch them die. Now, last time I checked, there was a group of people that did not want Jesus to be king of Jerusalem. They did not want him to be king of the Jews. And this is the same people that even though they were given Christ, they were given the Messiah, just like this parable shows that this person was given a certain amount of money that this person used unwisely, just like God gave them their Messiah. And the Jews abused their Messiah. That was very unwise. They killed him. Well, now all of a sudden, the person says, okay, well, you know what? So they didn't want me to be king? All right, that's how they treated my Messiah? Oh, okay, fine. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and do away with them. This is talking about the unfaithful Jews who made a very bad investment on how they treated their Messiah. This is the meaning of that parable. It has nothing to do with Edomites or anything like that. Nothing. Zilch. I don't know what it is, but whatever you've been taught, it is a narrative, and hear me well. I say this out of love because I love you. It is a narrative that is non-existent in the Bible.
Right, but the scriptures say, start on my sanctuary first. So the Most High is gonna start slaying in Israel first. So we teach that. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 39, start at verse 10. Now this talks about the end times, when Gog and Magog is gonna rise up, which is the Russians today, modern day Russians, which are gonna start World War III. Soon in our lifetime, apparently, according to the elders. And if you read the text, let's go to Ezekiel 39. Let's talk about this is the judgment of the Gog and Magog, which they came against Jerusalem. Oh, before we go there, let's go to Zechariah 12 and 9.
Then why did we even go there in the first place?
Well, Zechariah 12 and 9 first, and Ezekiel 39. If we have time to get that, if you have time to get that. Zechariah 12 and 9, and then Ezekiel 39 for the crowd.
Zechariah 12 and 8, I got.
12 and 9. Oh, hold on. Yeah. Start at verse 8. 8 through 9. Then we go to Ezekiel 39.
Verse 9, bro. I mean, at least not in it. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. It says, on that day. Oh, yeah, I am. On that day, the Lord will protect the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the feeblest among them on that day may be like David, and the house of David shall be like God, like the angel of the Lord, going before them. On that day, I will seek to destroy all the nations that come up against Jerusalem.
There you go. So he talks about the nations that are going to come up against Jerusalem in the Third World War. Okay, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 39.
Do you know who is going to be accompanying Jesus? Jesus is actually going to have an army.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. They're going to come up against Jesus himself. They're going to try to fight Yahushua himself, the Son of God. Well, these people are that arrogant. These Edomites and converts are that arrogant. They're going to try to fight against Yahushua. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 39. This is the fate of those who come up against Jerusalem.
Question for you. Who does that army consist of?
Which army?
This army that's going to accompany Jesus to go ahead and destroy all these bad nations that rose up against it.
Well, that's Isaiah chapter 66. But before we go there, let's go to Ezekiel 39 real quick. Start at verse 10.
Here, let me make it simpler for you. Will this army consist of Jews, or will this army consist of Christians being Jews and Gentiles?
No, bloodline Israel, actual physical Israel.
Oh,
now,
okay.
Before I do that, let's go to Ezekiel 39.
I'd like to take you to some passages. All right.
Before we go to your passage, let's go to Ezekiel 39 and 10 real quick. Then I'll read your passage.
Oh, all right, okay, but okay, go ahead. Where do you want me to go?
Yeah, yeah. Ezekiel 39, start at verse 10. This is the judgment of Gog and Magog, which are the Russians, which are going to come up against Jerusalem. You know, well, they're going to fight in the Third World War.
Where is this?
Which is talked about all throughout the Bible.
Where's this at again?
Ezekiel 39, start at verse 10.
By the way, I do want to that you're not actually proving anything. All you're doing is reading scriptures, and then after that, you're just slapping personal end time things on it, like World War III, as if this is exactly what these prophecies are about, and how exactly it's going to rule out.
Okay, start at verse 10. Let's read this real quick.
Zechariah or Ezekiel 39 verse 10 says this: so that they will not need to take the wood out of the field or cut out any of the forest, for they will make their fires of the weapons. They will seize the spoil of those who spoiled them and plunder those who plundered them, declares the Lord.
Yeah, the verse 11.
Verse 11 says, on that day I will give to Gog a place for burial in Israel, the valley of the travelers, east of the sea. I will block the travelers, for their Gog and all his multitude will be buried. It will be called the valley of Hamon Gog.
Aaron, keep reading.
For 7 months, the house of Israel will be burying them in order to cleanse the land.
You keep reading to verse 16. 13. Oh, verse 13.
All the people of the land will bury them, and it will bring them renown on the day that I show my glory, declares the Lord.
Yeah, verse 14.
I will set apart men to travel regularly, bury those travelers remaining on the face of the land, so as to cleanse it. At the end of 7 months, they will make their search. And when these travel through the land, and anyone sees a human bone, then he shall set up a sign by it till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Hamon Gog. Hamonah is also the name of the city.
Skip down to verse 21.
And I will set my glory among the nations, and all the nations shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid on them.
Verse 22.
The house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord their God from that day forward.
That's right.
Oh, I missed that part. Say it again.
Verse 23.
And the nations shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity.
Read that again.
And the nations shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity.
We went into captivity for breaking the laws. So the Gentiles are going to know that why we went into captivity. Read on.
Well, actually, you go into captivity not because you didn't keep the Sabbath or the feast day, but because
for idolatry.
Yeah, that's it. Once again, those are moral laws. Anyway, because they dealt so treacherously with me that I hid my and gave them and other, and they all fell by the sword.
Yeah, skip down last verse. Skip down to verse 25.
You said that before.
Okay, I'll read it. Therefore, thus said Yah, now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob and have mercy upon the whole house of Israel.
It didn't say bring the captivity. It said now I will restore the fortunes of Jacob.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it means. Yeah, in the Old English, that's what it means in the Old English. Okay, and it says after that they are born their shame, they dwell in their land, and none made them afraid. When I brought them again from the people and gathered them out of their enemies' lands. We're in the enemies' lands right now. So the Most High is going to gather us out of our enemies' lands and bring us back to Jerusalem. Then shall they know that I am Yahweh their power, which caused them to be led into captivity amongst the heathen. But I have gathered them unto their own land, Israel, and I've left none of them any more there, any more from them, for I poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, says Yahweh. So this is clear. The Gog, the Valley of Haman Gog is going to be where those dead bodies are going to be buried. They're going to be a show for everyone who's looking. It's going to be a show. And that links right up what I said, chapter 66.
I understand how that's going to be a show. You like, what are you saying about these verses?
It's going to be a show. Now let me prove that. I'll read the scripture. Then we'll go to your scripture. I know you said you had a scripture you want to get up. Yeah, Isaiah chapter 66. Okay. This is in the King James Version. Verse 24. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. So the Most High, those carcasses are going to be, the people are going to be looking at them. These are the people who went against the Most High. For their worms shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they should be an abhorring unto all flesh. But if you screwed up in Isaiah 66 verse 20, it talks about how the nations are going to bring us back to Jerusalem.
That's not, but that's not the fate of in Isaiah.
You breaking up? Sorry, say it again.
I said that. Well, mute yourself. I said that's not the fate of Gog in Isaiah 66.
Right. No, it's 66. If you go up, it talks about how the nations are going to send us back to the land, in chariots or swift beasts, on horses, on mules, to Jerusalem. We're going to go actually be sent back to Jerusalem. But it says
that thing. Okay, then that means that has nothing to do with the fate of Gog in Ezekiel 39, which you said that they will be made a show of.
No, it says in verse 24, they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that had transgressed against me, for their worms shall not die. They shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. And the word abhorring just means, to abhor something is to, is to hate something.
Again, once again, that is not the fate of Gog.
Well, no, not particularly Gog, but Gog in the scripture in Ezekiel, that is going to be their fate. Those who came up against Jerusalem, that's what's going to happen to them. But also in Isaiah 66, it talks about the nations that came against Israel.
Right, but it does not say that that's going to be the fate of Gog in Ezekiel 39. You're reading Isaiah 66 into Ezekiel 39.
Okay, no problem. You go ahead. I know you had a scripture you wanted to get. I just want to get that out.
Okay, well, all right. Well, it just seems to me that you're just picking these scriptures and you're just slapping any kind of personal commentary that you would like. That's not how you actually read the Bible. Another thing I wanted to say is that about I think there was something there that you read in Ezekiel 39 or whatever, but I don't know. I'll get back to it. So let's go back to Zechariah 12. All right, something I want to pull.
Okay.
Now, Zechariah 12, you said that this army that will be with Jesus, it's going to be, bloodline Israelites, because, obviously, this is what Zechariah 12 is talking about, in terms of there being some big army. So there's something that I want to go ahead and show you real quick.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe that Obadiah was fulfilled, the book of Obadiah?
Yes.
Okay. Never mind. You have different people who believe it wasn't fulfilled.
Now, I'm going to show you something. Okay, well, I'm going to show you something in Zechariah 12. First off, this is what Zechariah 12, 1 and 2 says. It says this.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to read the first three of them. The burden of the word of the Lord concerning Israel. Thus declares the Lord, who stretched out the heavens and founded the earth and formed the spirit of man within them. Behold, I am about to make Jerusalem a cup of staggering to all the surrounding peoples. The siege of Jerusalem will also be against Judah. On that day, I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the peoples. All who lift it will surely hurt themselves. and all the nations of the earth will gather against it. I want to go ahead to 2 chapters later, Zechariah 14. I'm not going to read verses 1 through 5, but I'm going to read certain parts of it. This is what it says partially. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, and when he fought, as when he fought in the day of battle. Right?
Surreal, can I interrupt real quick? I'm sorry. To those in the chat, Sister Raquel and Brother Tony Tip, you have my control. Any foolishness in the chat, I want them out. No exceptions, non-negotiable. I will not have it. So the minute that you see it, boot them out. I don't want, there's no conversation, no first chances, no second chances. Out. Okay, go ahead. Continue, Surreal. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, brother, so real. Go to Zechariah 14, start at verse 14. Read verse 14 real quick.
This is my turn. You're not telling me what to read. You know, I'm
okay. Go ahead. Zechariah 14 cuts you. It goes against your argument. I don't know why you pulled it.
Actually, it doesn't, because you haven't even heard it yet.
Okay.
So continue. It says this. Another part of it says, and the Lord my God.
What verse you in?
Verse 5. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. So whatever God is going to do against these nations, he's going to have all these saints with thee. Now, you say that this is like an end time thing. I have no position on it yet. All I know is it was written by a prophet. So now that we got this picture of these saints that are going to be coming fighting with Christ, I want to move to another passage.
Hold on. Before you go to another passage, could you read where were we at? Zechariah 14, verse 14.
I'll do it for you.
Thank you. Toda, the water. Read verse 14 in Zechariah 14 and 14, because I'm telling you, I'm showing this to actual Israel.
Okay, it says this. Even Judah will fight at Jerusalem. Pause. It says, it didn't say only Judah. It didn't say, just Judah. It said even Judah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, read on.
Hold on. That's no different than saying also Judah or in addition Judah. In other words, there's going to be someone else other than Judah that's going to be.
Read on.
And the wealth of all the surrounding nations shall be collected, gold, silver, and garments, and in great abundance. All right, yeah, that's nice. We're talking about gifts. We're talking about who's this army. So back to.
No, hold on. Let me get to the point. Verse 16. And this shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came up against Jerusalem.
Hold on just a second. You told me to read verse 14. I'm back to my stuff now. So
okay.
Go ahead and continue. And by the way, I looked at verse 16. Has absolutely nothing to do with establishing this army that we're trying to see. Anyway.
Yeah.
This comes from Jude, verses 14 and 15. And he says this, and he's quoting from the book of Enoch. He says this. And Enoch also, the seventh of Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them, that are the ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against them. So now we see even more, even in the New Testament, that Jesus is coming once again for the second time with tens of thousands of his saints. Now I'm going to read something in the book of Revelation. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 19, verse 11 through 16.
And after your point, Surreal, the audience has a question for GMS again.
Okay. It says this.
You go to Revelations 12 and 5 after that.
Say it again.
Revelations 12 and 5 after you're done with that.
Actually, they got a question for you, so you can read that. But this is what it says. And I saw him. Say it again.
What verse in Revelation 19?
Verses 11 through 16.
Okay.
Okay. It says, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and as he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean." Pause before I continue. You know, no matter what we read in the book of Revelation, we've been finding out about these people who are constantly clothed in white, fine linen all night. And every time they're in the book of Revelation, they're always Christians. The same thing matches with Jesus' parable when he invited everybody to the marriage banquet after the people who were initially invited had other things to do.
Let me ask you a question. This guy Jesus, I'm not saying I don't believe in him. I do follow Yahushua's teachings.
Okay.
Did he have a father?
Hold on. I'm almost finished. These people are described as being Christ's army. Look at it says, "Out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that he shall smite the nations, and shall rule them with a rod of iron. He that treadeth on the winepress in the fierceness of his wrath of the Almighty God, and hath on his vesture, on his thigh, the name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords." So these people, these saints, right, that are named in Zechariah, Jude, and all throughout the book of Revelation, and also all throughout the epistles for that matter, they're saints. They're being described as clothed in white linen, right? They have kept the commandments of God, which is actual personal commandments in the book of Revelation, and they're clothed in white, and they're Christians. Some of them come from the 7 churches that Jesus was talking to in Revelation chapter 1 through 3. The same Christians that were called priests and kings and given a kingdom in 3 verses in the book of Revelation. And this is the army that is going to come and actually do away with all of Jerusalem's enemies in Zechariah chapter 12 and Zechariah chapter 14. It seems that the Christians are going to save the Jews from all those bad nations.
Of course. Yeah, I agree with that. Go to Revelation 12 and 5.
Right. So how are these armies only? So how are these armies only Israelites when all throughout the book of Revelation, these people?
I never made that claim. You read 1 Kings 8:46. It's clear that we keep the commandments that the nations have mercy upon. Can you hear me?
Are actually emphatically Christians. Can you explain that to me?
Of course, the other nations are going to help us build the temple, and they're going to assist us in destroying our enemies. Not all Gentiles are our enemies, but we have Gentiles that are going to rebel against Yahushua. They're going to rebel against Israel, and they're going to be destroyed. But the Gentiles that keep the laws, let's get that. Go to Revelation 12 and 5 first. Then we're going to go to.
Well, you have a question. It's a question that an audience member wants to ask you because he keeps posting it. You jump in from scripture to scripture, so I mean no harm to you. But brother built for speed. Hey, dear brother. He wanted me to ask you, he says, if a prophet fails in their prophecy, is he to be considered, he or she, to be considered a false prophet?
Right. And they'll try to say that about the year 2000 prediction of the GMS. But there's a scripture that supports them, that we would seek to see the day, but it wouldn't come. So they fulfill prophecy there. Let's go to Zechariah 8. Zechariah chapter 8.
Okay, so is that a yes or a no?
No, we fulfill prophecy. I don't know if that's what he was getting at, but the whole 2000 prophecy, the elders fulfill prophecy that we would seek to see the day, but it wouldn't come. So we fulfill prophecy. Let's, brother, so real. One more scripture for you.
Wait.
Okay.
I don't know how much time we have. If we go to Zechariah chapter 8.
No, excuse me. How can you seek a day, but then you just said that it would not come, but then you said, oh, it was fulfilled?
It was just like when Nineveh got destroyed during the time of Jonah. It didn't get destroyed, but during the time when Nahum the Most High destroyed it. So it happened a little bit later than
No, dear brother, you can't use that, because at the time when Jonah went and prophesied to Nineveh and told Nineveh to repent, within, I believe it was that 40-day period, Nineveh actually did repent. So therefore God spared them, because they did actually what God told them to do through Jonah. So it didn't have to come to pass. Again, that's like comparing apples and oranges. When your elders back in the early 90s or late 80s were prophesying that or saying that the world was going to end in the year 2000 and it did not happen, that's considered false prophecy. Would you not say that?
Yes, I would agree. But like I said, they fulfilled prophecy. We would seek to see the day, but it wouldn't come.
What?
Like the scripture, it won't tell it. It won't tell it.
Okay.
Wait a minute. What was that day?
So real, brother, so real. Let's go to Zechariah 8 real quick. I want to show you something real quick.
Going there. Was that day that they sought that it would not come, the year 2000 prophecy?
Yeah. Say it again.
Was that day that they sought but would not come, the day of the year 2000 prophecy?
Yes, yes. I don't know if that's what the brother was asking in the chat room, but I'm guessing he's going at that.
Okay, then how can you say that prophecy was fulfilled if you say that prophecy did not come?
No, I said it was fulfilled because we sought to see the day that Yahushua will return, but it wouldn't come during the time that we thought it would come.
Let's go that back. Let's run that by that real slow. You sought to see a day that the Messiah would come, but that day did not come, and you say that right there is fulfilled prophecy. That sounds like a contradiction. That's like you saying, I'm going to be here at 5 a.m. and I end up trying to look for you at 5 a.m. on the street somewhere, and you did not come. But then
I'm going to get this before we get. Let's go to Zechariah. I want to show you something real quick. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 21.
Right there, because I'm trying to understand your answer. I
don't know if that was the question. What that the chat room was getting at. I'm just assuming that's what he was trying to talk about.
Yes, he was asking about prophecy, period, but yes, that is related to it. So I guess he wanted that addressed. I'm looking at his response, and he is he said, I do, sis, I want to push this. Go ahead, brother Bill, for speed. I'm waiting on you. He did respond, but he said, now what? He said, what type of garbage answer is that? No disrespect, but I guess your answer is you're conflicting your answer, just like that's why Cyril is responding to you the way he is, because we're not understanding you. So could you, Cyril is on it. Okay, so Cyril is already addressing it. Go ahead and finish, Cyril.
I'm just going to ask this question one more time. Did now the year 2000 prophecy was a prophecy that came from, people from your school, or at least they supported it a lot?
Like I said, the old school was wicked. It wasn't what it was wicked. You know what I mean? Like everything about it was wicked. So like, the elders went off in certain ways.
Okay, so the question is, because Jesus Christ did not return in the year 2000 and slaughter all the evil Edomite white people,
right,
would it be safe to say that was a false prophecy and that they were false prophets, according to the Bible?
Yeah. Well, like the elders always said, they used to watch videos, and the elders would tell them, you got to teach it exactly like we taught it. And it was like very robotic in the old school. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I just wanted to get it on record here. I heard a slight yes come out of you before you began.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No problem. I didn't want to argue that. Talk to the elders about that. We're out on 34th and 7 every week. You can come ask questions at the camp if you have questions for that.
To be honest, I'm not very fond of talking to people that you consider false prophets, and also, according to the Bible, it's false prophets. I mean, maybe I would talk to them because I have, questions, like I have questions for you. I don't think I would, want to try to, learn, anything from them. If
I know we're plus. I know we're coming at the end. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 8 real quick. Then we'll go back to that. Zechariah chapter 8, start at verse 21.
Go to Zechariah chapter 8, and as I'm going there, I just wanted to get a reiteration question. So you basically now believe that the army that's coming to make sure that Jerusalem is safe is an army of Bible-believing Christians.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yep. I agree with that. I do agree.
So Zechariah chapter 8.
21 through 23. I just want to show you this real quick. I don't know if you heard this before.
And I guess this will be the last one of the night because, you know, we're coming on to midnight. And it says this: the inhabitants of one city shall go to another, saying, let us go at once to entreat the favor of the Lord and to seek the Lord of hosts. I myself am going. Many peoples and strong nations shall come and seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem.
Yes, in Jerusalem. And to entreat the favor of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts. Okay. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, in those days 10 men from the nations of every tongue shall take hold of the robe of the robe of a Jew, saying, let us go with you, for we have heard that God is with you.
So this proves that the Jew is an actual bloodline, because it says that the other nation will take the skirt or the zitzit of him that is a Jew, saying, we will go with you, for we heard that God is with you.
How does this prove that the Jews are bloodline people when A, bloodline is never even mentioned, B, the circumcision thing still has not even been addressed at all, and C, when it's applied to this passage, the only difference between, you know, the actual nation of Israel and, you know, the Gentile nations is basically covenant circumcision and promises.
Okay, my last scripture before we go, Tobit chapter 4, verse 12. This is going to kill all those arguments we made all night.
Okay, well, I'd like to go ahead to a verse here.
Hold on, go to Tobit chapter 4, verse 12. This is my last scripture.
Nah, you know what, man? I'm gonna go to my last scripture, man. I didn't give you enough.
Let me read Tobit chapter 4, verse 12. Beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe of physical people, for we are the children of the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married of their own kindred, and were blessing their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. So it says, the seed of thy father, which is a physical seed, which is not of thy father's tribe. So this is clearly talking about seeds and tribes. So how could you come back and say, I don't understand where you get this doctrine from?
Yes, the same seed that was circumcised on the 8th day. And it says only take people in their tribes. Well, you know, according to Ezekiel 47, how did people go into those tribes? I'd like to show you something. So I'm going to go ahead and read Ezekiel chapter 47. This is what it says on verse 19 or verse 20. It says this: on the west side, the great sea shall be the boundary to a point opposite Lebo Hamath. This shall be the west side. So you shall divide this land among you according to the tribes of Israel. You shall not allot the land of inheritance for yourselves. You shall allot it as an inheritance for yourselves and for the sojourners who reside among you. And hear me out. Well, wait a minute. Hear me out.
Yep.
And for the sojourners who reside among you and have had children among you, they shall be to you as native born children of Israel. With you they shall be allotted an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. In whatever tribes the sojourner resides in, there you shall assign him his inheritance, declares the Lord. Now I want to read this, and hold on just a second. Now I want to read this in one more translation, and once again, it is the Septuagint. And notice,
I promise this is my last scripture, Nehemiah chapter 13. After you're done with that, can we get that real quick?
All right, well, I'm not done yet.
After you're done, do you mind getting it real quick?
Yeah, I'll get it when I'm done. You know.
Okay, fine.
Now this comes from the Septuagint. Notice the words that these people use, and also
Right,
in the New Testament, this is
yep,
all that's quoted. Right? This is the
right.
Bible of the first century. It says this. Ye shall cast it a lot upon it for yourselves and the strangers that sojourn in the midst of you, who have begotten children in the midst of you, and they shall be to you as natives among the children of Israel. They
Right,
shall eat with you in their inheritance. Yeah, they shall eat with you in their inheritance in the midst of the tribes of Israel,
right.
and they shall be the tribe of proselytes among the proselytes that are with them. There ye shall give them an inheritance, said the Lord. Why is this important? Because when you look at the word proselyte every single time, all it means is, in layman's terms, no matter what lexicon you read, it means a Gentile who is converted by circumcision to being a Jew.
So let me ask you a
And it,
question. What about your Paul? Doesn't he teach against circumcision?
now, and it calls them the tribe of proselytes among the proselytes that
Did
are
Paul
with.
teach against circumcision?
The reason why this is important is because when you try to say whatever verse you said where it's only among the seed, well, were those seed converts? Yes. Whether they were circumcised on the 8th day as a baby or whether they came from other nations as adults
Can you hear me?
and all of a sudden they were circumcised. And
Here's my
guess what?
question for you. What did Paul teach against circumcision?
Their seed.
Can you hear me?
You're missing. So the emphasis is not on the seed alone. The emphasis is on the condition of the person who
Okay, let's go to
produces.
Nehemiah chapter 13 real quick. It's my last scripture.
Okay, good. So, well, actually, it was my last scripture. Because
Yeah,
it's
let's go to Nehemiah 13 real quick. It's my last scripture. Start at verse 1.
where.
Nehemiah 13 and 1.
All right, and after this, I'm gonna read my last scripture like I wanted to. Chapter 13, verse.
And I want you to explain this for the crowd, for the people.
Okay. And also, I think there's something I missed in Ezekiel 47. If you read in there, it says that those people that were like converted and being proselytes, they were actually to be like grafted in to the nearest tribe that they're among.
All right. Okay. Nehemiah 13. I want you to explain this for the people. Read
Okay.
that.
13 verse
1. Start at verse 1. Keep reading down.
oh boy. In that day they read in the book of Moses in the ears of the people, and it was found written in it that the Ammonites and Moabites should not enter into the congregation of God forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and water, but hired Balaam against them to curse them. But our God turned the curse into a blessing. And it came to pass that when they heard the law, that they were separated, even every alien in Israel. And before this time, Eliasib the priest dwelt in the treasury of the house of the Lord, connected with Tobias. And he made himself a great treasury, and there they were formerly in the habit of bestowing the offerings and the frankincense and the vessels and the tithes of the corn and the wine and the oil and the ordered portion of the Levites and the singers and porters and the first fruits of the priests. But in all
Hold
the
on.
time it was not.
Hold on. I'm saying, scoot down to verse 23.
And in those days I saw the Jews who had married women of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. And their children spoke half the language of Ashdod and did not know how to speak in the Jewish language. And I strove with them and cursed them, and I smote some of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, Ye shall not give your daughters to their sons, and ye shall not take of their daughters to your sons. Did not Solomon, the king of Israel, sin thus? Though there was no king like him among many nations, He was beloved of God, and God made him king over all Israel, yet strange women turned him aside. So we will not hearken to you to do all this evil, to break the covenant with our God, to marry strange wives. And Eliashib the high priest, one of the sons of Joiada, being the son-in-law of Sanballat the Uranite, I chase him away from me. Remember them, O God, for their false connection with the priesthood and the breaking of the covenant of the priesthood, and for the defiling the Levites. So I purge them from all foreign connection, and establish the courts of the courses of the priests and the Levites, every man according to his work, and the
There
offering
you
of
go.
wood bearers was a certain set times, and in the times of
Okay.
fruits. Remember,
That's all that. So the first verse says, I read the book of Moses, and it was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of God forever. Let's read verse. Let's go back and read. What verse were we in? Sorry, I lost my footing.
Okay, and after your verse, and then we're gonna have closing remarks, and we'll shut it down. And
Yeah,
then
it is. Yeah, I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, that they should come and keep. Yeah, in those
But
days also, I saw Jews.
hey, hey,
Yeah.
I was in the middle of announcement. Wait.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So after your scripture, and we're gonna have closing remarks from you, and then closing remarks from Cyril, 2 minutes each, and then we're gonna shut this down. If you're available again, Brother GMS, to come back tomorrow, because the audience, they have some questions.
Okay.
So most of the questions will not be only just for the people on the panel, but it's going to be from the people in the chat, because they really want to talk to you. By you being a part of GMS, they want to really dialogue with you as well, if you don't mind. So I am extending an invitation for you to come back on my platform tomorrow, if you have the time. But go ahead, dear brother, and finish your scripture. Sorry.
Yes, like I was saying, Brother Sorrel has to explain this. In those days, verse 23, I saw Jews that had married wives of Ammon and Moab, Ammon and Moab again, and their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod. They could not speak in the Jewish language. They couldn't speak Hebrew. But I contend with them and cursed them. He cursed them, and he killed some of them. He said, you shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? See what I'm saying? So it's clear that he killed some of them for marrying them with the Ammonites and the Moabites.
okay,
I mean, they couldn't speak the Jewish language. So you have to explain now. Address that.
Sure. I'll do it real quick. It's actually quite simple. Well, if you read the verses, it actually said that God did not want them to marry them, basically because of their pagan ways. And then it actually said that in one of the verses, but I can't quite recall where it actually had actually showed that. The only thing I can recall is it actually used Solomon as an example, where Solomon basically was turned from God because of what? His strange wives. So they made the reference of not marrying those people, not because of some bloodline, not because they're trying to keep the race pure. Nope. It was because God was afraid that they were going to take them away from him and have his own people serve other gods, breaking the covenant relationship that he had with his people. That was God's concern. With that, I'd like to go ahead and make my closing remarks. My closing remarks is going to come from two scriptures. In the Old Covenant, things like that would happen. The Moabites couldn't enter the congregation forever, right? Only Israel, right? This is what my opponent's saying. And that's the way God got down in the Old Covenant. Even though I did go and show that the Israelites were never a race to begin with, and that people from all places could actually come on and be a part of Israel. So let me go ahead and get started. If you actually read in Deuteronomy verses 7, verses 1 through 6, it speaks about how God didn't want them to go ahead and be with the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Jebusites, Hivites, all those nations that were round about them. He said, nope, don't make no covenant with them, don't make no marriages with them. But did say that when it came to those who are far off, which is in Deuteronomy 20, verses 13 through 18, anytime that you go into places that are far off, right, beyond those 7 nations that God said no to, then you could go ahead and take those people, right? You can go ahead and take them to be your wives, right? And also it says same thing in I think it's Deuteronomy 21, all this other stuff that I can show. So yes, God didn't mind having them marry outside of, the covenant people. It was just the idolatry that he was worried about. So finally, in Ephesians 2, it says, remember that you were at times separated from Christ, alienated from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers to the covenant of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. That is the status of the Gentiles in the old covenant. They were strangers from the commonwealth of Israel, and they had nothing. They didn't have God. They didn't have no hope. They didn't have nobody. They were separated from Christ, period.
Let's talk about the Israelite foreigners. You're misinterpreting that scripture. Go to
Actually,
James chapter 1, verse 1.
actually, it's not, because we already showed how the context.
Yesterday you said that Jeremiah chapter 30 was fulfilled. I checked it out and it wasn't fulfilled. You're wrong on it. Not
Think about chapter 30 at all. We never even brought that up. We never even went to that passage today.
You went there. Yes, we went to Jeremiah 30 yesterday. Verse 11. You tried to say it was fulfilled.
I don't remember anything about Jeremiah 30 yesterday. But anyway, now verse 19 of Ephesians chapter 2 says this. Now this is the status of the Jews, or I'm sorry, the Gentiles under the new covenant. This is what it says. So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, but now are fellow citizens with the saints and the members of what? The Commonwealth of Israel? Nope. The household of God.
Uh-oh. Go to James 1 and 1 real quick.
Of the apostles and the prophets, Christ Jesus himself being the chief cornerstone. So even though they were rejected in the old covenant, they are Christians, they're saints, they're fellow citizens in the household of Church of God in the new covenant. And last thing I like to read is Revelation 21. Not going to read the whole thing, but when it comes to the end of days, this is what the final thing is going to be. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth was passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Nobody built that city. And notice that it said, behold, the dwelling place, right? The tabernacle, right? Or in other words, the moving temple of God, whole nother story, is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. That is what's going to happen in the last and final days. And not only that.
Well, Matthew 5 and 6 says these 12 Jesus sent forth. He commanded them.
No. This is final rebuttal. So that does not mean closing statements. This is what he believes. This is what his final position is, and you're going to be able to give your final position, and that's it. So you don't interrupt him. Okay, baby? All right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Finish the reel. You got 1 minute left, and then it's his turn.
All right. So now the last part of Revelation 21 I would like to read is this. It says, and I saw no temple therein, for God, the Lord God Almighty, and the Lamb are the temple of it. So that is also the final temple as well. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it. Oh, so how are we going to have differentiation between Sabbath days if there's going to be no more differentiation of days now? For the glory of God did light it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them that are saved shall walk in the light of it. What is it? It's the city. So the nations that are saved, right? The Gentiles and all that are saved, They're going to go ahead and walk in this city. And the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. And the gates of it. So they go in through their own gates. Interesting. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there either. Once again, how are you going to celebrate Sabbath days and feast days if you have no differentiation between days and nights? That's because verse 1 says that there will be a new heaven and a new earth, and all things will be passed away and all things will be made new. And in Matthew 5:17, Jesus said that not one part of the law will pass until all things are fulfilled. Well, now Revelation 21, it's saying that the heaven and earth has passed away, and now there's a new heaven and new earth. So why even have these laws? And it says that the laws will be passed away. So, and also it says, and they shall bring their glory and honor of the nations into it. Right? So these Gentiles that are saved, these nations that are saved, are going to bring the glory and honor of their own nations into it. That is all I have to say. And I hope that people that are listening out there, that are GMS, if you're listening out there and you are GMS, I don't know and understand how it is that you guys call yourselves real teachers when the Bible does not teach what you are pushing. And I pray that y'all repent and put this down, because you guys are better than this false doctrine. You guys are trading the riches of endlessness for pennies of the devil. You're so much better than this. So much better. That's all I got to say.
Okay, James 1:1. James, the servant of Yah and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. So they were going to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. The strangers in the book of Peter is the same strangers in James 1:1. This is Matthew 10:5-6. These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of Samaria enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So my closing statement is, and he tried to say yesterday that Jeremiah 30 was fulfilled. Verse 11 says that he will make a full end of all nations who he had driven us. And every one of our adversaries, every one of them are going to go into captivity. They're going into slavery. So my last point is, you so-called Negroes are the true descendants of Israel, or the 12 tribes of Israel. You guys are from the tribe of Judah. And in these last days, we're going to be gathered as a nation and rule over the earth as a nation of people. These so-called Jews you see today with the yarmulkes, they took your nationality. They're descendants of Edomite converts and Japhetic converts. And the Sephardic Jews are Adi Abin. If you study Rabbi Asher Mez's work, if you go to my channel, Great Millstone, Long Island, on YouTube, you can watch my video on that. Your ancestors fled into West Africa, where we started various dynasties like the Zad dynasty, ZA dynasty, various Israelite dynasties in Ghana. So we were in West Africa where we got picked up in the transatlantic slave trade, the descendants of those Israelites after 70 AD. We were all over Africa, but particularly in Ghana, when we got pushed into America, South America, North America, and the likes. So give me a call if you have any questions. I put my number out there, 516-643-8411. Again, that's 516-643-8411. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about today's broadcast. And I thank Sister Cherry for inviting us on, and I'm definitely open for tomorrow as well to come back.
Okay. Thank you to you both, and as well as Brother G. Khan. I know he had some things to do. And then I want to say to my listeners, thank you guys for all attending. Sister Raquel and Brother Tony Tell stepping in as moderators. They will continue to moderate, especially for tomorrow's discussion. So you guys know the rules. Foolish trolls, I ain't got time for that. Please boot them out. So again, I'm going to leave you guys with this scripture briefly, and it's coming from John chapter I believe this is John chapter 8 verse 31, when it says, then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, and if ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed. Verse 32, and it says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. well, shall set you free, rather. So I just wanted to leave you with that brief scripture. I want to say peace and blessings to both sides. I look forward to you, GMS, coming back to this panel because I'm going to have some tough questions for you. And as well as the audience are going to have some tough questions for you. So please be prepared. With that, I bid you both peace, blessings, and good night.